St. Louis manager Tony La Russa has tried to piece together his starting staff in 2008. A former reliever, now starter Todd Wellemeyer. A reclamation project in Joel Pinheiro. Former closer Braden Looper. A new team and a great year for Cal Loge. But maybe the final piece of the puzzle heads to the mound tonight. Former Cy Young Award winner Chris Carpenter. Needless to say, a sense of excitement this evening for the return of the right-hander. Chris Carpenter and the Cardinals. Game 3 next on FSN Midwest.
A shot in the arm, so to speak, for the Cardinals organization here in Atlanta. It's the St. Louis Cardinals and the Atlanta Braves. It's game number 3. That shot in the arm, the return of Chris Carpenter to the mound tonight.
I'm excited to be back here. I'm excited to get out there and pitch again at this level. And, you know, I'm just looking to go out and compete and give my team a chance to win again. It's been a long time, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, everybody's been looking forward to it. That's Al Raboski. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Welcome to the broadcast booth. It's been a long time coming as Chris Carpenter, only 2 rehab starts and back in the major leagues. He'll make his debut tonight. So I guess the question, Al, right now, we do know there's a pitch count, but what can we reasonably expect from Carpenter in this start?
Reasonably expect? I think that's yet to know, but I think you touched on it, a shot in the arm. This guy is a great competitor. He's going to go out there physically. He knows he's sound. He's ready for this, but I think that you know that he's going to be better in 3 starts than he is here tonight. But I do expect him to be very competitive. It's just trying to keep those emotions in check. It's been a long time since his last appearance.
He has been here since noon. So, folks, he is ready to go tonight. It is Carpenter on the mound for St. Louis. From a starter to a reliever. We'll talk about Ryan Franklin. His performance in Game 2 is next. We continue to get you set for baseball tonight. Of course, Chris Carpenter making this start. Everybody anticipating that. But let's take you back to last night here at Turner Field. It was Ryan Franklin out of the bullpen, and the 35-year-old picked up his 4th win of the year.
He went 2 innings of work last night picking up that victory, and much better than his previous 3 outings, covering a couple losses and a bunch of home runs. He struggled a little bit with his command, but he put up shutout 0.
When we come back, we'll talk about Jurgens. He's 10-5 with a ERA just over 3 for the Atlanta Braves. He's been somewhat of a surprise. A scatter report when we come back on FSN Midwest. During the pregame show just moments ago, Tony La Russa was saying that Chris Carpenter has been here since noon, getting ready for this start, his 08 debut. On the other side, Jurgens, the starter for the Atlanta Braves, and this is our Ford Kia scatter report.
One of the top rookies in the game today. The left-handed batter's fastball changeup, right-handed batter's fastball slider. Great mental makeup, very athletic. He doesn't get rattled, and this is a young man that they acquired in exchange for Edgar Renteria.
When we come back, Skip Schumacher leads it off for the Cardinals, and Chris Carpenter takes to the mound. The Cardinals, the Braves, game number 3. Redbirds baseball is coming up on FSN. Cardinals baseball on FSN Midwest is brought to you by Bud Light Lime, the superior drinkability of Bud Light with a splash of 100% natural lime flavor. By Auto Tire, the lowest prices in town with 26 locations to serve you. You ought to go to Auto Tire, the tire pros. By Steak and Shake, famous for steak burgers. By Geico Direct, a 15-minute phone call could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Southwest Airlines. With Southwest Airlines, you're now free to be more productive. Visit southwest.com today. It's such a long time since we have seen Chris Carpenter on the mound. It's been since opening day of the 2007 campaign, and nearly 500 days. But Carpenter is back tonight, and the Cardinals are looking for their 3rd straight win over the Atlanta Braves. And a fastball at 90 miles an hour at the knees to Skip Schumacher. Jurgens, our Rico starter for the Atlanta Braves.
Wow, he's quite a young man. He's only 22 years of age. Came from Detroit in the Renteria deal.
That is slapped the other way, and an extra base hit coming up for Schumacher. He's on his way to second base. Average has been hovering right around that 300 mark basically all season long. And it's a leadoff double for the Cardinal leadoff man. Let's take a look at the Redbirds lineup. Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. We will highlight Yadier Molina. He's had an interesting series here against the Braves with those slides. Current road trip, he's 8 for 23 and 6 RBIs. Schumacher, Kennedy, and Pujols, Ludwig, Kloss, Molina, Mather, Carpenter, and Izturis. That's a look at your lineup brought to you by Southwest Airlines. And here is Adam Kennedy, who's back in the starting lineup. He says his foot injury, remember he fouled a ball off his foot in the Detroit series, is fine. Pulls this to Jurgens. Not hard enough, can't get past that pitcher and to the right side, and Schumacher stays put. Let's take a look at Bobby Cox's defense tonight. Around the Horn is brought to you by Auto Tire. Jurgens, 10 wins this season, most by a National League rookie. Norton is in left. He moves from first to left. Blanco in center. Francoeur is out and right. Infante, Escobar, Johnson, and Kochman, who they just picked up in the big deal with Teixeira. He's over at first. And Corky Miller is behind the plate. There's a look at Casey Kochman. Comes from Anaheim and now with Atlanta. Here's Albert Pujols. Pujols with a solo home run to tie it up 2-2 last night. Then a double, and he stole third base, and on an errant throw came around to score the go-ahead run. He's 3 for 6 with a home run in this series. He's been walked a bunch. First base open here. How will Jurgens pitch to Pujols? There's our answer. It's popped up. Casey Kochman. Unfamiliar territory for Kochman. You could see he was not real comfortable there over at first base.
Yeah, but he's an outstanding first baseman. And Jurgens is really, you know, went right after Albert. He doesn't pitch inside a whole bunch. Predominantly pitches away. But this young man, we saw his fielding prowess. He's very athletic on the mound and handles adversity very well.
As you talked about, he was part of the Renteria deal and the centerpiece coming back in that deal for Atlanta. 6'1", 200 pounds.
From Curacao. They've had success here in Atlanta with Curacao players.
Most notably Andrew Jones, and being from Curacao, he is the first major league pitcher to come from there and make it to the big leagues. So Pujols was out number 2, and here comes a 1-0 pitch to Ludwig. What's going through his mind right now? He's been in so many big games, but you know there's some butterflies for Chris Carpenter.
I'd love to have a lead, but I think he was chomping at the bit to get on the mound.
When you show up at noon for a 7-10 first pitch, I would say you're pretty excited to get back in this. Here's a 2-0 pitch to Ludwig. Fastball on the inside corner, 2-1.
You know, a lot of times an injured player just feels like they're not part of the team, and he is so much a part of this ball club. His teammates are all anxious to see him, get him back out there and have him be competitive, and that's as big a trade that you can make, acquiring Carpenter back healthy again.
3-1. A lot of people have said, all right, is this going to be a Mark Mulder type deal where Mulder came back and clearly wasn't ready? And this is totally a different situation when you're talking about a shoulder injury and the elbow injury that he's coming back from.
Right. And you know, in spring training, I mean, he was impressive in spring training. There's a good breaking ball there. But he was so impressive in spring training, he was just trying to keep the harness on him. And just to wait out the year. It was last July 24th that he had the surgery. Of course, the last time he pitched was opening day 07, and you knew something wasn't right then.
Just didn't look comfortable in that start. 3-2 pitch to Ludwig. Here it comes. Just missed on the inside corner. So 2 on in the first here for the Cardinals. And the batter will be Troy Gloss. The drive over here, we were talking about the stolen base of Pujols and the job by Troy Gloss to stand tall. He is a big man in that batter's box as Pujols was stealing third. Was it something that they knew was coming, meaning did Troy Gloss know the sign was there to steal for Pujols, or did he do it on his own?
I talked to both parties, and Troy recognized that he was stealing, and he said, you know, I just stood there and kind of tried to be a block.
Smart play.
And Albert says that, you know, it's really always adds a green light. It's almost more of a that Tony will give a sign when not to steal. But that was a heads-up play on Albert's part. And then with Troy Glaus recognizing and just standing tall there and making Corky Miller throw around him, he made a bad throw.
He just stood tall. He took the pitch, and Miller had to throw around him. Here it is.
See him stand right there, and then, you know, and Troy also said that his arm dad actually hit him. But, you know, you got to go around that 6', 240 body.
94 on that pitch, missed outside, 2 balls, 1 strike. And that was the biggest run in the game for the Cardinals as far as taking the lead. Gave them a 3-2 lead at the time. Well, you'd love to see Carpenter have a lead going out there in the bottom of the first. 2 balls and 1 strike.
Yeah, I bet there's mixed emotions. Yes, obviously he wants a lead, but I don't think he wants a long top of the inning. He wants to get out there as soon as he can.
2-1, the 2-1 pitch. Took something off it.
He's got that good slider. He's got a changeup. His slider's kind of his out pitch.
Should be an interesting night and an interesting few hours tomorrow. The trade deadline is just about here. Some big names are out there. Most notably Manny Ramirez.
Bud Rodriguez was traded to the Yankees today for Kyle Farnsworth.
2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Glaus strikes out. Jurgens, his first strikeout of the night. Carpenter to the mound when we come back. So Chris Carpenter back to the mound. Here in 2008, his debut. We saw him on opening night of 2007. Our Rico starter. Look at his career numbers. 169 his record. He has a Cy Young Award. That was back in 2005. 25 complete games. And the first pitch is taken for a ball up and away by Gregor Blanco. We had a big night in game 2 of this series. Emotions, I would figure out, would be the big thing with Carpenter here tonight. Just trying to keep those in check, especially early on. 2 balls and no strikes.
No doubt about it. You know, he's just going to try and find that strike zone and come out here and compete.
His own admission, he said, I am strong. I feel great. Mechanically, though, I'm not quite there yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, you know, because you have a tendency, you know, you get in the major leagues and you're so excited, you rush your delivery. Remember when he was in Springfield, his first rehab start, he wasn't happy at all with his fastball command. Got a little better at Memphis, but ideally probably would want to make 4 rehab starts.
And the leadoff walk to Blanco.
At the Cardinals field, he is the best option. He's better than some of the young minor league guys you can bring up.
Not a bad addition, you bet. Activated today, Carpenter, 94 starts with the Cardinals, 51-19. And his career postseason mark of 5-1 with a 2.53 ERA. One of the best pickups in the Walt Jocketty era is on the mound tonight. That's Chris Carpenter.
51-19 ERA, 3.14 in his 94 career starts as a Cardinal.
Now on the other side, if you are the Atlanta Braves and that pitch is taken low and away, you know he's coming off this surgery and you know he's on a pitch count, so why not take a bunch of pitches early on?
Yeah, I mean they're going to make him throw strikes, and you know in the minor leagues sometimes those guys are just swing happy and they aren't going to be patient.
There's a bunt. It's a good one. Carpenter's only play to go to first. That would have been ball 2. Sacrifice is good. It goes 1-3 on the play, and it brings in Casey Kochman here in his Braves debut. Southwest Airlines starting lineup. We highlight Blanco, their leadoff man, who was on base 5 times last night. Blanco, Escobar, and Kochman, Norton, Infante, and Johnson, Francoeur, Miller, and Jurgens. So 1 out runner at second. Kochman was hitting .287 with 12 home runs and 54 RBIs with the Angels. Key with him, this is a key with a lot of teams now as they deal with The trade deadline is how many years do you have left on a contract?
Yeah, and I mean, you might be surprised for the Angels, and many people think is the best team in the game, that his 54 RBIs were leading the Angels.
Well, I talked about it last night, Al. The fact was the Angels were 11th in on-base percentage at the time of the deal, 10th in slugging percentage, 9th in home runs, 9th in runs scored. So it gives you an idea that they pitch well, very good obviously at the end of their games with their closer, but they need some offense. Here's a ground ball taken by Albert Pujols. Runner will advance to third base, and there's 2 outs. Brings in Greg Norton. Cardinals defensively tonight. Mather is in left again. Skip Schumacher in center. No Ricky Ankiel. Ryan Ludwig is in right. Gloss Isturis on the left side of the infield. Kennedy and Pujols on the right side. Yadier Molina is behind the plate. It was 485 days since his last major league start for Chris Carpenter. And remember, they waited a long time to decide to shut him down and have that surgery.
He had the surgery, a year ago this week.
2 outs and a runner at third. That's bounced to the plate. Nicely blocked by Yadier Molina. That saves a run.
Trying to throw the breaking ball there, and Yadi blocks it. Carpenter's going to get out of this inning. He's got the pinch hitter deluxe, but with all the injuries for the Braves, Norton is playing left tonight. Last night he was at first base batting cleanup.
How much of the decision making as far as having Carpenter make this start was dependent on the fact that there's no Chipper Jones, there's no McCann, no Teixeira. Made it a little easier, I'm sure.
I think that's a plus, but I mean, right now I think Tony La Russa will take a Chris Carpenter at what percentage he's at over anything he's had options in the minor leagues. And I can't disagree with it.
2-1.
Doesn't have all of his weapons, doesn't have, but I am sure that he will have, as this game develops, his stuff will get better.
2-1 pitch. Changeup that time, 2-2.
Great arm action on that one, and that's really hard to do when you're coming off of injury and still trying to find your fastball to make your changeup look like your fastball delivery.
A curveball is lifted out to left field, and Chris Carpenter, welcome back to the major leagues. A scoreless first inning in his return. Molina, Mather, Carpenter coming up, no score. Later tonight, following the postgame show, it's the best damn sports show period, the greatest nightly sports show on television. Coming up after our postgame show following baseball, CC Sabathia will be part of that program coming up later. Vern Troyer will be part of that program as well. CC Sabathia took out a full-page ad in the Cleveland newspaper thanking the fans of Cleveland. Cost him about $15,000 to do that, but that was in the
small down payment.
Yeah, absolutely. Morning paper today, but classy move nonetheless.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Here's an 0-1 pitch to Molina. Hit out of play. We showed you his numbers, how well he's been hitting as of late. And how about the arm action? I think this was the changeup here, Al, that you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6'6", trying to repeat his delivery on everything, but you see how he went out there and it looks like his fastball doesn't have command of the curveball, and the fastball is going to be a little bit tentative, but if he can throw that changeup, that's going to be helpful.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Back to Jurgens. He'll underhand it to the first baseman, Casey Kotchman. For young pitchers out there, you don't like that, do you? Running and underhanding towards first.
No, I mean, I'm not crazy about it.
We see it more and more, don't we?
Part of my problem is I was left-handed, but to throw the ball underhand, I do that right-handed.
You couldn't do it underhand with the left hand.
No, I have no command left-handed.
That makes no sense.
So that's smart for me not to underhand the ball.
You're the wrong guy to ask.
Yeah, so
here's Joe Mather with Carpenter on deck. Fastball and a strike.
And I guess I'm going to ask you a question. Which hand do I bowl with?
Well, it's got to be your right hand.
You are correct.
I got to think about when we're on the golf course and you will underhand a ball to me. You do it right-handed. I've never noticed it until now. I'm thinking about it. Just another odd quirk of Al Raboski.
There's many more.
Oh, I know. I've talked to June.
Right-footed.
Yeah.
I kick football.
But you right-left.
Right-left. Eat left.
I see a lot
Think
of
left.
A lot. Well, yeah. You don't vote.
I got
that
you there.
1-2 is the count. On the outside corner, and Mather strikes out. And there's 2 away. Chris Carpenter will dig in. Cesar Izturis on deck. And Carpenter takes a ball upstairs. Carpenter, first few pitches back in the major leagues, you could see that he was, I don't know if he was rushed, but the command and the control weren't really there. And then as he got the thing going, it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt he's going to be more comfortable the second inning, and hopefully he'll just continue that way. But the first batter to walk him, no surprise.
Two and one. Home plate umpire is Jim Joyce.
Oh, yeah. And this is a pitcher that can live on the outside part of the plate, too. So that could work to his advantage.
Could work to Carpenter's advantage as well. He has a lack of control tonight.
There's a guy that had a terrible strike zone last night. He had a Minnesota strike zone.
It's a dusty toothpick right there, too.
UL Washington, Dusty Baker.
Carpenter makes contact, and it's 2-2. Set up outside, 2-2 pitch. Inside, and Carpenter rips it out to left, and Norton will make the catch. Infante, Johnson, Francoeur coming up. Sunday night is television's biggest night with the summer sports block, beginning with the Hooters Dream Girls and then baseball's golden age, followed by amazing sports stories and finally the best damn top 50. The summer sports block begins Sunday at 7 only on FSN Midwest. Carpenter is second inning of work. 15 pitches in the first inning. We'll keep an eye on that pitch count. Tony La Russa was telling me the other day that they felt they could get 80 to 85 pitches from Carpenter, but it would be game dictated. Leadoff base hit by Infante. In steps Kelly Johnson. All these crazy rumors flying around, and one of those involving Jeremy Bermuda of the Florida Marlins, and one of the top prospects that the Marlins have as well, and Manny Ramirez of the Boston Red Sox. How about the Yankees? I mean, they just load up, go out and get Pudge Rodriguez. Hey, no big deal.
Money's no object.
That'll roll, and it's going to stay fair. Off the bag at third. Gloss's only play to let it roll. It rolls fair, stays that way. First two have reached. And how about Bobby Cox here, Al, in the first couple of innings, sacrificing against Carpenter?
Well, I think he knows his team is offensively challenged, and so he's going to try and take a lead and try to play small ball. And there's what you're saying, Troy Gloss. A lot of times a third baseman or even a catcher will roll a ball down the lines and see if it has a tendency to go foul, or some even ballparks kind of the ball will either stay fair or even turn right and go further fair.
Jeff Francoeur hitting just .232. Fastball up and in.
It's not like the old days of the older ballparks. And if you, to give you an example, what I'm talking about, think about Wrigley Field, where the field is crowned for drainage. These fields have such tremendous drainage situations, they can build them flat.
What was a team that would always water when you were playing maybe the front of the batter's box?
Well, they do that, or of course, you know, when Lou Brock or think about Vince Coleman, they'd water down first base, trying to keep them from getting a good good jumps and steal bases.
2-1. It's early, but your thoughts on Carpenter so far?
You know, Carpenter is a horse. I mean, this guy's a champion. You know, as I said, he's going to be better in 2 starts than he is tonight, but he's going to stay very competitive.
Here's a ground ball, base hit out to left. Runner will come in. Mather's throw is going to be cut off. He was playing very deep out left for Francoeur. 3 singles to start this second inning, 1-0 Atlanta.
And here's a great example. You know, you want a ground ball to get a double play. He gets a ground ball and he misses location a little bit. They wanted that inside, it was out of way, and it just goes through for a base hit. But his intent was to get a ground ball in turn 2. It just found a hole.
Nobody out. Runners at first and second. 8th place hitter is Corky Miller, then the pitcher on deck. Corky is hitting .096. He's showing bunt with the pitcher on deck and looks at ball 1.
Not sure I agree with that with the pitcher on deck.
No.
Of course, Corky's struggling offensively and paying .069 against right-handed pitching.
You can see the sweat, the uniform we saw with Wellemeyer last night, but there was a little bit of rain in the area. This is a clear night, a little bit humid, but Carpenter is already sweating through his jersey. Miller bunts again, and Carpenter makes the play over at first. You bunt with a position player to bring up a pitcher that's hitting 105. Runners at second and third and 1 out. This date in baseball history, ace of the Gas House gang, Dizzy Dean, strikes out 17 Cubs, setting a major league record at the time, July 30th, 1933. Dizzy Dean, or this date in baseball history. 1 out, second and third. 1-0 Atlanta here in the second inning. The pitcher Jurgens is up. Be interested to see what Molina has thought of the stuff of Chris Carpenter so far. Guy that knows him very, very well.
Well, they've had 2 sacrifices, but 1 with bunt base hit. Are we going to see a squeeze?
Here's a 1-0. Carpenter, long look, and maybe that's what he's thinking too.
Yeah, they just held the ball there, just trying to see if a hitter would give it away and just wait for him to call timeout.
Atlanta with 3 hits here in the first 2 innings. A pitch at 93 in our gun. 2 balls and no strikes.
And velocity's fine. The command of his breaking ball and fastball a little bit off, but that's to be expected.
Ground ball. Pujols will back up. No play.
Wow.
And that has got to be a runner at third base trying to score, don't you think,
Yes,
Alan, that play?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, anything hit to the right side, that guy's got to break home. But if you don't get a good jump and you stop, you know, then you can't run into an out. Go back to Corky Miller, the catcher, sacrificing, getting the guy over to third base. And then the pitcher does his job by hitting the ball the right side, but the runner at third does not go. And Albert kind of had to back up on it and play it flat-footed.
Well, he was definitely expecting that runner from third base to score. That was Johnson.
But he kind of got an in-between hop.
Yeah.
And so Johnson would have had a much a bigger lead and had the ability to and should have scored.
Blanco walked his first time up. Looks at a breaking ball down and in.
Tied his career high with 4 hits last night. Second time he's done that this week. And he also was on base 5 times with a walk. And a walk here tonight.
And he has reached base now 6 straight times going back to last night.
He may drop down a bunt.
Sure. Here's a 1-1. Backed him off the plate. That's one thing about Carpenter. I know you love it. When you watch him pitch, he is not afraid to pitch inside.
Well, and you know what? Guys that pitch inside win.
That's right.
Kind of a common theme. And it doesn't hurt to have a little mean streak. I mean, here's a wonderful family man, a great person. But when he's on the mound, he has a little attitude.
2-1 is hit sharply to short. On a short hop, it's Isturis over to Albert, who picks it over at first base. Braves pick up a run, 1-0 after 2. FSN previews upcoming Missouri football and their season and the Big 12 Conference and the Big 12 football preview shows premiering Saturday afternoon. Missouri's preview is coming up with Chase Daniel and Jeremy Macklin, Chase Kaufman, William Moore. And the Missouri Tigers will be featured at 4:30. All the teams featured this weekend on FSN Midwest.
Your wife just called me.
And today, Scott Rowland revealed that he has been troubled by an ailing left shoulder as of late. We've heard that before, haven't we?
Wow.
He's undergone, of course, 3 operations on the shoulder the last 3 years. Isturis into shallow left center field.
In between innings, they showed Lieutenant General Hal Moore, one of Tony's spring training guest speakers. General Moore was the centerpiece of We Are Soldiers, a great movie and about the 1st Armored Cav Division.
And Scott Rowland had missed time earlier this year with a hand injury. Schumacher doubled to start this game. That was a nice standing ovation from the fans here at Turner Field.
I was down in the dugout when General Moore came through to see the Cardinal players and Tony La Russa.
Just missing low and away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Atlanta leads it 1-0. Carpenter has given up 3 base hits. Braves 1, St. Louis nothing. Right down the middle for strike 2.
This kid, you know, you really like the way he has a feel for pitching. He's only 22 years of age and he's already a 10-game winner, and that ERA at 3.02.
You take a look at his numbers as compared to the rest of the rookies in the National League, and he's right there amongst some of the best as the catch is made by Greg Norton. Your all-access pass to Busch Stadium has arrived. It's the 2008 Cardinals yearbook celebrating a day in the life of Busch Stadium. Takes you inside the clubhouse, players meetings, and more. Discover the book that everyone will be talking about. To order, call area code 314-345-9000 or visit STLCardinals.com. Come to the ballpark tomorrow. Could be seeing a different team on both sides, depending on what moves are made. Everybody will be watching Chicago and Milwaukee a little later tonight. Dempster will go for Chicago. 1-0 pitch. They lead the Cardinals by 4 games, and the Cardinals just a game back in Milwaukee in the wild card.
Milwaukee sent their 2 best starters, CC Sabathia and Ben Sheets. Lost both games at home.
The 2-0 pitch right down the middle. Very surprising to see Detroit, you know, and what they've done this year, Al. They were supposed to be so good, and yet they are fighting for their playoff lives right now with a couple of months to go. Replace their closer, Todd Jones. Now they have traded Pudge Rodriguez. Just hasn't worked out like they thought.
And, you know, we haven't seen Kyle Farnsworth since he left the National League, but there was a guy that I wouldn't trust with the lead.
No.
Great arm, super body, but untrustworthy with the lead.
Nice backhanded play by Johnson. Takes a hit away from Kennedy. That's 7 straight by Jurgens. Carpenter back to the mound. Bottom of the third, Carpenter back to work. 1-0 Atlanta. Escobar, Kochman, and Norton 2, 3, and 4 in the lineup for the Braves. Carpenter has allowed 3 base hits. RBI for Jeff Francoeur. There's a good pitch at 88. Looked to be the cutter that time by Carpenter.
Good pitch.
And Escobar, I think, wants a new bat.
Asked for the stickum. Now the pine tar rag.
Looks like Carpenter has switched jerseys. He's got to try a dry jersey out there.
I don't know if he cracked his bat or broke it, but you're getting a new one.
1 year, 3 months, 29 days. The Cardinals have thrown 15 different pitchers to start a game since that day. 8 of those 15 have made 20+ starts. Of those 8, 6 are still with the Cardinals.
So cutter away now. Fastball down and in.
1-1 pitch to Escobar, the shortstop. That's a strike. You know when it's a strike because you'll hear Jim Joyce even up here, the home plate umpire. Very loud with his calls. There's the curveball. Not real sharp on that breaking ball.
It's kind of hanger. It's kind of backing up a little bit.
Could spend a night under the stars at Busch Stadium coming up later this season. It'll be on September 12th, and you can find out more at STLCardinals.com. It's the Cardinals Campout, and it's sponsored by Bass Pro Shops and Tracker Boats.
All 3 innings, the leadoff man has reached base.
Now it's Kochman. So primarily Carpenter's been working from the stretch.
Which sometimes isn't the worst thing because it's a little more simplified form.
Kochman grounded out to first in his Braves debut. Ideally, the Cardinals would have loved to have had 4 rehab starts for big number 29, but they're running out of time. 2 months to go in the season. They want to get him up here in the big leagues. Here's a 1-0 pitch to Kochman. Two and 0. Cardinals start play at 60 and 49. Game number 110 tonight. Ground ball foul. First time probably since the 1990 season the Braves have become sellers. 1991 division championship. World champions in 95. Their last division championship was 05.
5 games ago when Jurgens pitched 8 shutout innings against Philadelphia, and they won that first game of that showdown. You know, they thought they were in pretty good shape, and they lost back-to-back games, blowing a 6-run and a 5-run lead, and then all the more injuries. Notably Chipper Jones and Tim Hudson. Now they put themselves in a position where they got to look to next year.
3-1. They're hoping that Hudson won't have to have Tommy John surgery. Down the right field line. It's pretty well hit, but it'll stay in the ballpark. Catch made by Ludwig. A strong throw into second base. Very fine throw by the Cardinal right fielder. This portion of Cardinal baseball on FSN Midwest is brought to you by your St. Louis area Kia retailers. Kia, the power to surprise. And by Taco Bell's new Batista Freeze. Available in 2 delicious flavors, topped with real fresh strawberries. Refresh your day. Some pretty big names that could come off the payroll for the Atlanta Braves. So if they want to be active, they could be probably in the offseason.
Glavine, Hampton, Teixeira, who was traded, was making $12.5 million.
Norton flying to left first time up.
We don't know about Smoltz.
He has said he's going to try to come back. He doesn't know if it's going to be as a starter or reliever. Out to left. Mather was playing pretty deep. Keeps it in front. A base hit by Norton.
Mather usually liked his defense out there, but playing awfully deep. And his ball's going to slice away from him, and so he pulls up. Now that's a competitor out there. He's not mad at his teammate, but he's just mad that the play's not made.
Double play and you're out of it. Here's Omar Infante. Infante singled and scored back in the second inning. Pitch count at 41 for Chris Carpenter. Cardinals in the top of the fourth will have Pujols, Ludwig, and Gloss. That's in there for a strike. Well, he's out there, and some of the things that are happening, he's just not accustomed to. You know, all of a sudden there's base hits against him, and he's not making pitches that normally he has, you know, is making those with ease.
Yeah, well, I mean, Norton's ball probably should have been caught, but, you know, playing extremely deep.
In my opinion, too deep.
Yeah, Norton has 3 home runs. Infante has 2 home runs, and he's playing extremely deep for him.
One ball, one strike. Runners at first and second. Inning started with a base hit by Escobar. Kochman flied out to right. Single by Norton. And a 1-1 pitch. Hit out of play. You think this is a distraction, Al? Manny Ramirez, prior to the game tonight, has come out and said, quote, "They haven't asked me for anything, but they don't deserve a player like me." He says, "I've seen how they've mistreated other great players when they didn't want them to try to turn the fans against them." He mentioned Garcia Parra and Pedro. Kennedy is going to call for it. Infield fly.
Oh, Kelly!
Good pitch there as he goes up and in and gets the pop up.
A productive player, but you're trying to win a World Series or get into postseason play. Here's the pitch by Carpenter.
Molina set up inside, comes in there, up and in, and ties him up, pops up. Second out of the inning.
As a teammate, how would you respond to something like that when you hear those kind of things?
You know, sometimes you consider the source and you just don't get upset. If certain guys make comments that it's, you know, it's you know that that's not in their nature, and then you get concerned about it. You know, why did he make that? But a guy like Manny, I think, you know, you kind of like, well, consider the source. We'll just let that, doesn't affect us. He's in his own world.
If you're the Red Sox, you know, you've got a big gap to fill if you trade him.
And let me also say this. That's not the first time that allegation has ever been made.
2-0 pitch. Took something off it. A changeup 2-1 on Kelly Johnson.
And that's not just the Red Sox, but there's a lot of clubs that, you know, when they have a very popular player and they decide that they, you know, no longer or need to cut ties with them, it is disturbing that they feel like they have to put out a, you know, build up a negativity on the guy and to justify why they want to get rid of him. Why not just accept, hey, he was a very productive player for us for many years. He helped us, you know, to the World Championships, but it's time, you know, it's time to separate.
3-2. There are things that have happened this year that have gone beyond what's going on the field. He shoved the traveling secretary. You know, those kind of things are a big deal. You don't do that. It's embarrassment to the organization to have that happen. Carpenter doesn't get that call. And the bases are loaded. Johnson aboard for the second time, and it brings in Francoeur. That's the second walk issued by Carpenter tonight. Francoeur steps in. He has the lone base hit RBI. And now he's got a chance with the bases loaded and 2 outs here in the third.
Carpenter, you know, in his career has usually been about close to a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. And you just know when, you know, he's walked 2, he hadn't struck out a man yet. He's out there trying to compete with what he has, but he doesn't have the ability to locate his pitches the way he normally does. But he's still such a great competitor. You expect him to get out of this inning.
1-0 pitch to Francoeur. 1 ball, 1 strike. Even talk of Jeff Francoeur being a guy that could be shipped out of Atlanta. And a couple years ago, that was unthinkable. He's from this area. Grew up a Braves fan, wanted to be drafted by Atlanta. He was. He said this is the only team he wanted to play for. A fan favorite for a number of seasons. And still a very young player. 1 ball and 2 strikes. He's got 47 RBIs, 9 home runs, and hitting just above 230.
22 of his RBIs have come with 2 outs.
And a broken bat, another one that Carpenter gets, and he underhands to Pujols, and the Braves strand the bases loaded. Albert leads it off when we come back. Top of the 4th, and Atlanta has a 1-0 lead. Albert Pujols leads it off. Cardinals baseball on FSM Midwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. First pitch to Albert is taken low and outside. What we have seen from Carpenter here in the first 3 innings is that his command is not where it normally is, and I mean normal. I mean when we see him when he is not coming off a serious injury. You know, normally you just see him and he's mowing through people with good command, but not many breaking balls tonight. Curveball, you haven't seen a lot of that ever.
Well, you know, every time he throws it, it's just a roller up there. And his cutter or slider has been a little inconsistent. His fastball is in and out, but you know, he finds a way to be competitive.
And here's a situation, 3 innings in, only a 1-run lead, and the Braves have stranded 6. 2-1 pitch to Albert. Watch out. Grounder left side and gloved by the third baseman. Infante makes a nice play on Albert. But it's worth noting again, Al, not his best stuff. Basically without the curveball, only 1 run allowed, and pitching inside.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's a guy that is going to go out there and be competitive, and that's why you say, okay, even though he's not Carpenter-like yet, he's still your best option. And he will get better, you know, in the next couple starts. And then you could expect him to be more Carpenter-like.
Ludwig, first time up, drew a walk, hitting .292 with 23 home runs and 72 RBIs. he hammers this pitch, pulled foul. Down and in, he was ready for it. It's that pitch that's down that we've seen Ludwig have great success with.
Yeah, and this pitcher does a good job of keeping the ball down. He primarily works away, but I think he's pitched a little more inside in this game, you know, than what the scouting report indicated.
One-two pitch. They set up way outside. Leaves it over the middle of the plate and a base hit for Ludwig. One out base hit here in the fourth, and that's the first base runner for the Cardinals since back in the first when Ludwig walked.
Conscious that he pitches away a lot, and you watch his delivery as it kind of comes back to the middle ever so slightly. That's a lot of times when you try and pull that outside pitch, you know, you roll over on it, you hit the ground ball to short. This time it found the hole.
Troy Gloss, he's due for a home run. He's got 18 on the year.
A little bit of funk recently.
Lifts it in the air to center field. Slams his bat down. Easy play for Gregor Blanco for out number 2. This year, when you can't be home to watch the Cardinals on FSN, check out MLB.tv, and you can go online to watch every out-of-market Cardinals game of the season live of the final 2 months. For details, visit STLCardinals.com, where baseball is always on. 2 outs, and here's Molina. First pitch to Yadi, low and away.
Good road trip for Yadi. He's 5 for 10 in this series and 8 for 23 in the trip.
And that's a foul ball. Good to see Brian Jordan before the game. Former Cardinal and former Atlanta Falcon and Brave, working in some of the TV games for the Atlanta Braves. Looks in great shape. Looks like he still can play.
You're absolutely right. Talked to him for a while, and then I saw him standing by the elevator and just, you know, broad shoulders, thin waist.
Molina hits it down the right field line, but foul. Think about the Atlanta Braves. At one point, they had two sports stars. I believe Deion Sanders and Brian Jordan were together at one point.
With both teams, right?
Yeah. One and two is the count. I'm not sure if they were in baseball, but I'm almost
Falcons,
positive. Yeah, in football they were. They set up inside. Molina fouls it back.
Good pitch up and in.
Cardinals will wrap up the road trip tomorrow night. Ryan Howard and the Phillies in town on Friday night. Loge and Cole Hamels Friday night. Looper and Joe Blanton, who they picked up in a trade, that's on Saturday. Wellemeyer and Brett Myers the Sunday night game. Pinheiro and Mike Hampton tomorrow. That's right, Mike Hampton. 1-2 pitch to Yadi.
They're underway in Milwaukee. Dempster against Manny Parra. 11-game winner against a 9-game winner.
Two-two pitch. No, time is called. And Molina chased it in a strikeout. Miller holds on. Third strikeout of the night for Jurgens. Carpenter back to work in the bottom of the fourth. Well, let's take a look at our Fruit of the Loom feel for the game, and it's Chris Carpenter pitching inside, Al.
Well, you see him set up inside, and if you miss inside off the plate. There's a very effective pitch popping up the batter.
It's brought to you by Fruit of the Loom. Bottom of the fourth, and it's 1-0 Atlanta. Feel for the game, of course, pitching inside for Chris Carpenter. And that's probably the best breaking ball we've seen.
That really is. It looked like he might have slowed up a little bit, but it had the downward and good tilt to it. And it started out around the belt, falls down below the knees.
0-2 pitch. Carpenter said following a 78 pitch outing in the minor leagues in his last rehab, he said after that the next day he felt the normal soreness, but really felt great. He said I was actually surprised by how good I felt. Cardinals have talked about a pitch count of maybe 80-85 pitches tonight.
This will be pitch number 60.
1-2 pitch to Miller and a strikeout. Carpenter's first strikeout in his return to the big leagues. Let's check in with Brent Stover, who's with a special guest. Brent.
And Dan, it's always fun to catch up with Brian Jordan. Of course, 92 to 98 had some great years with the Cardinals. How are you doing, Brian?
Doing real good.
What are you up to these days?
Well, I'm trying to be like you and do a little pregame, postgame for FSN Sports South and having fun.
And what's the best part about this as opposed to being down there on the field?
Now I get to talk about the players like the broadcasters talked about me when I played, so it's a lot of fun doing that.
Hitting is a lot easier, and for that matter, everything in baseball is a lot easier up here, huh?
It is, it is. I mean, you don't have to go face Randy Johnson and those tough pitches anymore.
Best memories of your years in St. Louis there?
Well, just having that opportunity to get that close to the World Series and losing out to these guys, the Braves, was a lot of fun. And just really playing with Hall of Famers like Ozzie Smith and Eckersley, I mean, Mark McGuire. It was just a lot of fun in St. Louis.
How about the NFL? You miss that at all?
I do. I don't miss the pain of the NFL, but I miss it.
What teams are you pulling for on each? I guess you got to be kind of a Braves guy right now, huh?
I am a Braves guy, but my heart is still in St. Louis. I keep my eye on those guys and wish them well as they go along and compete for against Milwaukee and Chicago. So they're surprising me this year with all the injuries they had. I tip my cap to Tony La Russa. He's doing a great job.
Tough year, though, for this Braves team, huh? What do you see here going forward?
Well, right now you got to build for the future, and they unfortunately lost Mark Teixeira, but it was a good trade for the future of the Braves. With the injuries they had this year, was just unbelievable. I mean, snake-bitten Braves is what I call them.
Brian, we certainly appreciate your time as always. Good catching up with you.
Good catching up with you. I just want to say hi to Tom, me, and Mike Helling, my guys when I played in St. Louis.
There you have it, Dan.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Thank you to Brian Jordan. And back in 1996, he was on a team that was one win away from the World Series to face the Yankees, as the Cardinals had a 3-1 lead on the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves came storming, and I mean storming back.
Yeah.
There was no contest in the final few games of that series. There's a ground ball up the middle, backhanded by Kennedy. Nicely done.
By far Carpenter's best inning.
Absolutely. Very sharp. 1-2-3. Sends us to the 5th. Mather, Carpenter, Isturis coming up. It's 1-0 Atlanta. One to nothing Atlanta here in the top of the 5th. These two teams with a playoff history. St. Louis and the Atlanta Braves. Mather on the first pitch, taps it foul. Even though, Al, it was 8-9 and the leadoff man for Carpenter, the bottom of the 4th, very good movement on those pitches and probably his sharpest inning.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, command, the sharpness of the slider, spotting the fastball, very economical in his pitch count that inning.
One ball, one strike on Joe Mather. Mather, the start in left field tonight. Jumps on the pitch out to deep left field. Norton is back, looks up, and it's off the very top of the wall. Mather hustling all the way is into second base with a leadoff double. Almost cleared the wall for his second home run in this series. A leadoff double. Let's flash back. As I mentioned, history between these two teams in postseason play. How about 1982? Cardinals beat the Braves Game 3 of the National League Championship Series.
The only reason they won is because Game 1 got rained out.
Yep.
And Phil Niekro, historically, the Cardinals have never really hit a knuckleballer, and Phil Niekro and the Braves had the lead. Rains came, lost Niekro, and that was very, very helpful. You win that first game on the road, and you only have to win 3.
Well, that's going to be it for Carpenter. 4 innings. He'll give up 5 hits and 1 run. 67 pitches. Tony La Russa, for anybody that wanted to listen, stressed the fact that they are going to be very conservative with Carpenter, in particular with this start coming back, and probably his next one as well. Up and into Looper as he hits the deck. And Jurgens is saying that Looper offered at it.
Ball taken off, running, almost didn't pull the bat back in time. Carpenter finishes on a very positive note. Has an easiest inning, and I think hopefully they can get Mather over to third base with a sacrifice and at least tie this score. Don't tag Carpenter with an L.
Bunt out in front of the plate. No play over third. Head first slide by Mather. And the sacrifice is good by Looper. Is defensively, again, probably you could put it in the category of a lapse by Atlanta. And this has just been this whole series. Base running mistakes, throwing mistakes, and maybe this play too in that category.
Well, you got your third baseman charging. He comes in here. Now watch, it's a foot race between the shortstop and Mather. Corky Miller has plenty of time, but he was afraid after making a throwing error last night to hit a moving target. And you throw the ball to shortstop, and then he's got to bend down and try and tag out the runner at third. So they got the sure out at first.
Izturis up the middle. This game is tied. Carpenter does not get a loss. He's off the hook. And the Cardinals have tied it up here in the 5th. It's 1-1. Infield in, and Izturis takes advantage of it.
Just a little ground ball right back up the middle. And once it got by the pitcher, Escobar, the shortstop, had no chance. Izturis drives in his 16th run. That is only his 6th RBI, batting left-handed.
16 on the year. Here's Schumacher. Fastball misses out and away, and Skip Schumacher, the Cardinals leadoff man tonight, with a double. He's also flied out to deep left. You get Carpenter, Al, in the bottom of the 4th, having his best inning. 1, 2, 3, very sharp, and now he'll leave this game, and he can't be the loser in this game. 1-1.
Well, you just end up making everything positive, but more importantly, the offense has to respond and win this game for Carpenter and the team. It's all about accumulating wins. And how about the Cubbies? They've already taken a 2-0 lead in the first inning at Milwaukee.
Statement series maybe here by Chicago. Winning the first 2 against their 2 best, arguably. Here's a 1-0 pitch. Little low. Check that. It's now 3-0.
The last one looked pretty good, though, didn't it?
Sure did. On the other side, looking at this young right-hander, Jurgens is pretty good.
Yes, he is. He's got a good feel for what he's doing out there.
3-1.
He's only allowed 8 home runs in basically 130 innings.
The move to bring up Carpenter and activate him Cardinals have sent Randy Flores as the runner goes, and it's ball 4. So a double, a sacrifice, a single RBI, and now a walk to Schumacher. Randy Flores out, was sent to the minor leagues, trying to get him straightened out.
Well, at least he can go down there feeling like he knows what he needs to change mechanically, and really feeling pretty good about it. And also, you kind of wonder if a precursor to a trade for a left-handed reliever that's been a lot of talk about.
Saw him working with his sock and baseball in the bullpen. You're saying what? Well, Randy Flores was trying to correct his mechanics with a drill with a sock and a baseball.
2 days ago, they kind of were comparing some video of 06 and now, and they felt like he was sitting down on his back leg and kind of pitching uphill, and had a adverse effect on his slider and his fastball, not being able to stay on top of those pitches.
0-1 pitch. Little bloop out to left. Will it be fair? It is just fair, and the Cardinals have the lead. As Turris will score, it's a bloop double for Adam Kennedy, and the Cardinals have their first lead of the night. It's 2-1.
You know, Kennedy was hitting extremely well before the All-Star break. He was on a 346 tear, and then he's only had 19 at-bats in the 13 games after the break coming into tonight. That ball running back out over the middle of the plate, just a bloop double, but it scores an RBI, and the Cardinals have their first lead.
Bobby Cox has taken no chances with Pujols in this series. First base open, they will intentionally pass Pujols. He draws another walk. Pujols was intentionally passed in the 9th inning of the ball game last night, intentionally passed in the 3rd inning of game 1.
Leads the major leagues with his 25 intentional walks now.
How would you characterize the start by Carpenter tonight?
You know, pretty much what I expected. You know, the first part of the innings, I thought he was going to struggle a little bit with command, but I felt that he would get better as the time went along, and he finishes off with his best inning, his final inning, and I think there's no doubt he could have gone longer in this ball game, but they tried to make it a very positive outing. And his teammates now have responded. He can't get a loss. Hopefully it's a team victory.
Hindsight being 2020, you would love to have seen him sacrifice. Cardinals do what they're doing here and then go back out and get 3 more outs and have a chance at a win.
Right. And it's kind of odd that they didn't do that.
Again, Tony said he wanted to be overly cautious with him, and you can understand why. This is a big horse. This is a guy that you're counting on for the rest of this season, next year and beyond.
Yeah, you know, it's not just this year.
Yeah. Bases loaded and 1 out for Ryan Ludwig. 2-1 Cardinals. Ludwig, who has a base hit tonight and a walk, puts it out of play for strike 1.
And I'm sure when he asks Carpenter about his outing, he will be his own biggest critic. Another sign of a winner.
Another big test coming up for the Cardinals. Isringhausen in the 9th. It's pulled foul. You got Carpenter tonight. You've got Wainwright just around the corner. The Cardinals have publicly stated that Jason Isringhausen is their closer right now.
And saw that last night, warming up when it was a save situation, and as soon as it Cardinals scored 5 in the 9th inning, they put in McClellan.
0-2 pitch. It's what Tony does. If you are his closer and it's not a save situation, you have a seat in that situation. Foul tip held on to by Corky Miller. So Ludwig strikes out. There's 2 away. Let's go pitch by pitch, and this is brought to you by our friends at Chevrolet.
Fastball, he can't get around on. He throws a off-speed pitch out in front. Fastball away. And then the fastball upstairs at 94 miles an hour. Talked about a low ball hitter. That's the time you elevate for the strikeout.
So it's up to Troy Glaus. The third baseman tonight has struck out and flied out to center on a breaking ball. Gets the fastball to start this at bat and a strike.
Troy is 0 for his last 11 and has lost a little bit of his aggressiveness.
Yeah. Well, that pitch right there is a good example. You wonder if he's guessing breaking ball and gets the fastball on the first pitch. Bases loaded. Here comes the 0-1 to Troy Glaus. 2-1 Cardinals. On the outside corner, Glaus doesn't like that.
You talked about early that it looked like there was a strike zone that was going to favor the pitcher. And notice lately, you know, Glaus has disagreed with a lot of calls, and I'm sure that was outside.
0-2, and Turner Field comes alive. What will he see here on 0-2? If you are Jurgens, pound the outside corner. You're getting that call.
Threw the fastball out there. You know, he's got a good changeup, a good slider, but you know they felt that they would get a lot of fastballs out over the plate.
2-2. Cardinals have had Brad Thompson ready for this ball game tonight. Bullpen should be rested and ready to roll. He is the long man in the bullpen, of course, for the Cardinals. Time called. Two-two pitch. And he goes to 3-2.
Nice block by Corky Miller. Slider down and away.
All right, Al, this pitch, what do you go with a guy that's struggling right now? 3-2, bases loaded.
Well, he's got the weapons. A lot of times they say his out pitch is a slider, but I think with Troy Glaus, he throws that good fastball, you know, away and just throw it by him.
There go the runners. The 3-2 is a check swing in on the hands, which would have been ball 4.
Yeah, 93 got away from him, and it was almost self-defense as this ball's running in on him. See how he pulls his hands all the way into his chest. You can't really swing and hit a ball well with that type of swing, but that ball just took off and ran in.
Last home run was against Heath Bell of San Diego. 3-2. Glaus stays alive.
94 away.
It's a big at bat right here.
Oh, absolutely. Walks a run. You know, you just don't want to expand your zone. He already thinks the umpire has got a wide strike zone, and you got to protect the plate.
Again tonight, Glaus struck out swinging in the first with runners at first and second. He had a runner at first back in the fourth and flied out to center.
Leads the team with 27 doubles. It's tied for 10th in the National League. He's 5 home runs away from 300.
The zone has been wide all night. Will Jurgens go there again? Bases loaded. 3-2 pitch. A check swing by Glaus, and that's
Slider.
the pitch that we were talking about there.
Yeah, it's just got a piece of it. Troy 0 for 11, but you know, he's seen a lot of pitches in this at bat. What he hasn't seen is a mistake yet. The more pitches you see, the more likelihood you're going to see a mistake pitch. And the more pitches you also see, the better chance you can level a fastball. I guess he's going to make sure if he's hit by a pitch, he's in foul territory.
And Glaus hits it high in the air out to deep right field. Francoeur is back at the wall, and he's got it. Great catch by Francoeur.
He hit that wall hard.
What a play. What a play by Jeff Francoeur. and saves 3 runs. Well, we always talk about shifts in momentum in the game of baseball. This play by Francoeur, you wonder if it shifts back to the Braves' way. What a great play he just made.
Well, he had to go back. He's backpedaling right now. He doesn't have anything to stop his momentum crashing into the wall. And holds on to the ball, and he saved at least 3 runs.
You don't know what happens if he doesn't make that play with Troy Gloss, as you say. At least 3, maybe 4. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And Brad Thompson will take over his 15th appearance. He made 3 starts for the Cardinals this year. But he is, in the Cardinals' mind, this is his best role, the long man. He is very good at getting ground ball double plays. So let's just take ground ball outs.
So here we go in the bottom of the 5th. Thompson's first pitch is taken for a ball. He'll get Escobar, Kochman, and Norton. 2, 3, and 4 in the lineup for the Atlanta Braves. Chris Carpenter tonight, 4 innings, gives up a run, 5 hits, walked 2, struck out 2. His last inning, his best when he struck out 2. And looked very sharp. The 2-0 pitch. 3-0.
You don't want Brad to walk the first man and prove that he can get double play balls, do you?
No thanks. 3-0 pitch. At times that's been a strike tonight. 4 straight leadoff walk. Saturday, August 2nd, Freeport camera photo night at Busch Stadium. Gates open at 4:15. Bring your camera and arrive early to go onto the field. Snap up-close pictures of all your favorite players and coaches. Freeport camera photo night, Saturday, August 2nd. That is not what you want to see, a leadoff walk with the heart of the lineup coming up. Every inning, with the exception of last inning, they've had their leadoff man reach base.
2 by hits, 2 by walks.
This might be the best role for Thompson. He really has not gone very deep even when he was a starter. His career high is 7 1/3. He did that against Colorado. Twice he has gone 3 innings in relief prior to this season. He's in relief of Chris Carpenter tonight.
Hasn't pitched since he won on Saturday night, tiring 6 straight in the 13th and 14th innings.
We'll check on the runner at first. He's got good speed. That's Escobar.
Not really a base stealer. Escobar has 2 steals out of 6 attempts.
You talked about Casey Kochman. There's the ground ball, slowly hit. Pujols only played to Thompson, who's covering the bag at first, but Kochman with 107 hits, and that led the Angels. Brings in Norton, the left fielder. We turn to the Aflac trivia question. Who were the last 2 Cardinal pitchers to start an All-Star game? Chris Carpenter would be 1. And the other, Rick Wise.
Wise.
You're thinking Gibson? Been a good choice.
Yeah, would have been a good choice, but Rick Wise and Carlton and Rick Wise both having contract difficulties with their respective clubs, and finally Gussie Busch got upset over the ridiculous demand by Carlton that he wanted $70,000 a year, and they only were willing to pay him $65,000, and was ordered to trade him. And Bing Devine found the Phillies having the same problem with Rick Wise, and they swapped pitchers. I think, I may go out on the limb with this, but I think the Phillies got the better of that deal.
Good pitch by Thompson. 2 balls and 1 strike.
And at the same time, Jerry Royce, it's settled on money, but he asked for an unusual clause that he wanted first-class air transportation and meal money for his wife to go on the road.
The 2-1 is slapped out to left field. Mather will come up firing, and they'll hold the runner at third base. It's first and third with one out.
And Jerry Royce was 12-12 that year. He was 9-3 on the road and 3-9 at home, and they wanted to take her on the road. So he was traded, and about 500 wins between those two lefties after they got away from the Cardinals.
And Al, you think about some of the contracts now. It's private jets, it's boxes, you know, suites. That's what it takes to get the guy that you want. You do it.
Yeah, they gave us sweets. They were like the mints they put on your pillow at night. Already half eaten.
Sure. First and third, and now it's Omar Infante. Thompson needs a double play. It's the pitch on the outside corner. Infante didn't like it. It's been hit and miss, that outside corner, with these right-handed batters all night. John Mozeliak, the Cardinals GM, is here, and he's with his team. They huddle up in the hotel room. He says about 9:30 in the morning, the text messages, the voicemails start rolling in, and
the war room.
Yeah, essentially that's what he called it.
And we know that they are working the wires, and club's calling him, he's calling them.
There's the breaking ball and a strike. With the move with Flores going to Memphis, you would figure that's a need right now. Bullpen help in particular from the left side.
Well, it's something they've been trying to upgrade, you know, all season long.
Now, when you look at some of the available guys out there, one that stands out above the rest is Brian Fuentes. But he's kind of in a different category because he's lefty, but he solves some different issues that you have too, like the ninth inning.
Yeah, he can be a closer. He's been that. And obviously, you know, a lot more demand that you have to give in return. He had his issues, well, it was about 2 years ago, where he lost the closer role, but
back in it right now. The Rockies are only 7 games out in a division that no one seems to want to win. Arizona's 54 and 52.
You know, and then a lot of talk here that Will Ullman, a lefty in the Braves bullpen, could switch dugouts or fly north with St. Louis. But that's, you know, that's a lefty. Not a potential closer or a dual closer like Fuentes would be.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Runners at first and third. 2-2. Now, John Mozeliak too has always talked about in making deals now. You know, you take a look at the remainder of this season, and hopefully you have a player that's under contract this season and beyond. But Al, at what point do you say our players have given us an opportunity to get into postseason play? If it's a rent-a-player situation, then so be it.
Yeah, I mean, is Fuentes a free agent?
Free agent.
So
essentially, you could be talking about a guy that you get that makes, who knows, 15, 20, 25 appearances, and you give up a player that, you know, is in your system that could be a very good player.
And you might have to give up more than one,
yeah,
you know, prospect. And as you said, it could, you know, 20, 25 innings. If it's 20, 25 appearances, is that worth losing a prime prospect or two?
Two balls and 2 strikes. You also have compensatory picks that come into play with trades now in baseball. 2-2 pitch. Tapped foul. And that's if a player leaves as a free agent.
Yeah, and you know, who's to say that those draft picks are going to pan out? It's the gamble, but you know, everybody wants to develop homegrown talent too. So if you're confident, and the Cardinals feel that under Jeff Luhnow that they are drafting wiser and they've upgraded their farm system.
3-2 on Infante. Thompson so far, Al, has not looked real sharp.
Well, you know, he's just keeps on trying to throw the curveball, and it's hit or miss. That's a ball that leaves the ballpark all the time. His bread and butter pitch is a sinker. Sometimes it will move out of the strike zone, but I think we'd all rather have a ground ball, even if it goes through, than a hanging curveball.
Runner goes from first. The 3-2 is a base hit, pass toward Loss into left. The game is tied. It's 2-2.
It's fastball, but you know, you don't throw sinkers at the shoulders.
Fonte is second base hit.
You set up away, and look at that ball just up, out over the plate, and just really tomahawked. And Dave Duncan out to talk, and I'm sure he's going to talk about, hey, you've got to stay on top of your pitches, dropping the elbow on fastball, not staying on top of his breaking ball, and go out there and get ahead in the count.
So runners at first and second, 2-2 game. What's on tap is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light keeps it coming. And it's Joel Pinheiro, 3-4. Mike Hampton has made one start and coming back to the rotation for the Braves. 13.50 ERA. Cardinals and Braves tomorrow at 5 on FSN Midwest.
Mike Hampton was a little guy with a football mentality and just a, you know, very, very tough competitor. But boy, as the injuries, they have just mounted up, and just you don't know what to expect from him.
Kelly Johnson, a bunt base hit. And he's also walked. One out, runners at first and second. Thompson would love a double play here, and Russ Springer's already up. This is not what Tony La Russa wanted to see.
I mean, we brought in Brad. I think you thought he's going to take you to, say, the 8th or 9th inning.
That would be the idea. You'd like to see that. You're a long man, and now you get Springer up. More times than not, when he's up, he's coming in. They don't want to waste him.
Not too sure they like the pitch selection of what they've seen.
0-2 the count on Johnson. Changeup that time, hit out of play.
Sometimes pitchers feel that, you know, they got a dominant sinker that, you know, they want to be much more than just a sinker ball pitcher. Why? Sinker ballers win.
And a pop up out of play. 0-2 the count. Runners at first and second with one out. 2-2 game here in the bottom of the 5th. 1-2. And a strikeout. That time of Kelly Johnson.
Got him with a changeup.
Good pitch.
Well, you don't want it. You don't want it on that location, but he had him fooled on it and got away with it.
Here's Frank Core. Nice round of applause for him. With runners in scoring position, he's a .302 career hitter with 21 home runs. And he's made the defensive play of the night so far. Takes a hit away from Troy Gloss and 3 RBIs.
You know, he was playing relatively shallow and had to go back on that ball and then crashes into the wall with the bases loaded. And he is a good hitter with 2 outs.
There's the curveball again. He's got 0 command of that right now.
And that ball right there, you know, it's going to be crushed.
1-0 pitch to Francoeur. They set up inside. Gets it inside, but misses. 2 balls and no strikes. Braves right fielder picked up the first RBI of the night, a single back in the second to score Omar Infante, and he's also grounded out to second. 2-0 pitch. There it is again.
Leaving that on middle half in, just hitter just open up, just smoke it. Can't get it away.
And a walk to Francoeur. Bases loaded. 2 walks in the inning. Couple of base hits. The bases loaded for Corky Miller. A lot of times if Springer is brought in, it's to get 1 out. A lot of times it's done because they feel he's their best strikeout guy in the bullpen.
Right.
.094 is the average for Corky Miller, who is sacrificed and struck out in the 4th. He is throwing that breaking ball more than we've seen, it seems like, all year.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, but he's, like you said, .094. He is 2 for 30 against right-handed pitching. That .060.
It's not good. Here's the 0-1. Strike 2. Remember, the Braves are without Brian McCann. They do have Sammons, who hits from the right side as a catcher. He's available.
Brian McCann, through his first 425 career games, has a higher batting average, more home runs than Gary Carter, 5 less than Johnny Bench, more doubles, higher slugging percentage than those 2 Hall of Famers, and more RBIs to start his career than the 2 Hall of Famers.
0-2 pitch to Miller. 1 sit low and away. Gets it there, trying to have Miller chase it. Good block by Molina.
And another breaking ball.
Just joining us, the start for Chris Carpenter, a good one. In his debut, 4 innings, 1 run allowed, 5 hits, walked 2, and struck out 2. 1-2 pitch. Grounder hit slowly to short. Isturis steps and throws. Braves strand the bases loaded. In My Own Words on FSN Midwest tonight at 10 p.m. Following the postgame show, In My Own Words with Adam Wainwright. Pat Paris conducted that show and interview. And you'll see it tonight, the Atlanta native Adam Wainwright on In My Own Words. Molina, Mather, then the pitcher spot is due up. Yadier is 0 for 2. He is struck out and grounded out. 2-2 ball game. Cardinals picked up 2 runs in the 5th to take their first lead of the night. Bottom of 5, and Atlanta would tie it up. It's 2-2. Yadier back to the pitcher. 1 pitch, 1 out. Jurgens stabs at it and makes the catch.
I told you he can field his position and very athletic. He just demonstrated right there.
Breaking ball and just a line drive right back at him.
Chili's pitch count at 87 for Jurgens. Nobody has moved to the on-deck circle as of yet for the Cardinals. 2-2 game here in the 6th. Fastball and a strike at 92 miles an hour. Mather, a high fly ball into right. Francoeur makes the catch. 2 outs. Well, Thompson hit for himself.
Yes. Putting on his batting gloves, getting ready.
Trade with the Astros tonight. They have acquired right-handed reliever LaTroy Hawkins from the Yankees. Hawkins, 35 years old, 1-1, and an ERA close to 6 this year.
How about the Yankees? Gotten rid of 2 right-handers, Farnsworth and now Hawkins.
There's a fastball and a strike to Thompson.
It's 2-1 in Milwaukee now. Cubs leading.
Trade rumors are circling around Jason Bay of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Their left fielder that's had another solid year. That rolls foul, they're going to say.
No, it's fair ball.
Now he calls it. He initially called it foul, then it rolled back fair. So Thompson is out. He had all that English on the ball. It rolled back fair. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Jurgens. 2-2. Back on FSN Midwest, the long-anticipated return of Chris Carpenter to the mound for St. Louis. 4 innings, 1 run allowed. He struck out 2. Little help from Adam Kennedy in his final inning of work. Turris got things going offensively for the Cardinals. The play of the night, though, bases loaded, and that catch by Francoeur in right. That saved 3 runs. Tony La Russa here in the bottom of the 6th, 2-2 game will stay with Brad Thompson, despite the fact that partner, he wasn't sharp in his first inning of work.
Well, maybe he wore himself down a little bit, threw an awful lot of pitches, allowed them to tie the game on 2 hits and 2 walks.
Kerry Wood did not throw in a simulated game tonight, and according to Lou Piniella, he is not close to returning to the bullpen for the Chicago Cubs. He hasn't pitched since July 11th. He's got a blister, and he can't throw fastballs right now, they say.
A lot of times that blister is more of a byproduct of the breaking ball.
Right.
People would be shocked for some of the different remedies for blisters and preparation and different things they do to avoid them. But it doesn't happen to every pitcher. But when you have a problem with it, it can be very serious.
Cardinals trying to get their 61st win of the night, or rather of the year tonight. That's tap foul for strike 2. I don't think anybody anticipated the Cardinals having a chance this late in the season, game number 110, to be 61-49.
This team has been remarkable. It's just resilient. You know, we talk about the Braves, or everybody talks about how they're decimated injuries. Well, the Cardinals have had their share.
1-2 pitch is popped up to Turris. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cardinals. Al Raboski, Dan McLaughlin with you. 3 finals in from baseball today. 10 innings. Kansas City over Oakland 4-3. The Yankees pound Baltimore 13-3. They have been one of the hottest teams in baseball. And Tampa Bay wins again. They beat Toronto 3-2. Pretty good race over in the American League East with Boston, Tampa Bay, and New York.
And Boston's trailing late in their ball game 6-2 to the Angels.
Mather on the move in left. Got a good jump. Makes the catch. All youth dancers and cheerleaders, it's the time for the 7th annual Team Fredbird Dance Clinic. Saturday, September 6th. Team Fredbird will teach a one-day dance clinic. To find out more, visit STLCardinals.com. It ain't bragging if you can do it. Dizzy Dean, our Geico quotes.
Back it up.
Could be a quick inning right here for Thompson.
It's more efficient as thrown 39 pitches and a ton of those in the first inning of work.
Escobar into right, and the catch made by Lundwick. 7th inning rolls in. When we come back, it's Cesar Izturis. He'll lead it off, followed by Schumacher and Kennedy. Baseball is brought to you by Rico. Move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. By your local St. Louis Jeep dealers. And by Jack in the Box. We don't make it until you order it. First pitch to Cesar Izturis is taken for a ball. Jurgens in his 7th inning of work, the starter for Atlanta. Cardinals starter Chris Carpenter lasted 4 innings. Now it's Thompson's game.
Jurgens averages 6 1/3 innings. Another very positive aspect to this rookie.
Izturis with a base hit up the middle and an RBI. And Cesar Al has gone back to being a switch hitter. He abandoned it for maybe 3 or 4 games and said, that's it. I'm only going to hit from the other side of the plate, but now he's a switch hitter again.
He told me that he felt more comfortable being right-handed, and tonight he said, you feel more comfortable going back to switching? He said yes.
2-1 pitch. Grounder hit to second. Kelly Johnson with it for the first out. All in all, I think tonight is a success, obviously, when you talk about Chris Carpenter.
Exactly right. I mean, there's no way to look at it other than that.
Johnny Warner is tonight's merchandise winner in the Hyundai Long Drive Inning Sweepstakes. Good luck to Johnny Warner. The Braves looking ahead to the bottom of this inning will have Kochman, Norton, and Infante. One out of here, Skip. Hits it out of play. Schumacher tonight doubled, flied out to deep left, and also walked in the 5th.
Been a little more than a month since Schumacher's hit a home run.
Marlins winning their ball game over the Mets 5-1. Florida amazingly still in the race. Only 2 games out in the National League East. The Phillies a half game back of New York at the start of play tonight. Phillies leading their game 7-3 over Washington. Atlanta Braves 8.5 games out. Schumacher lines it to left for out number 2. 2 outs, and it brings in Kennedy.
2 RBIs tonight, one from Izturis, the other from Kennedy.
It's funny how things work out in baseball. It's such a long season, but it all comes out the way that it's supposed to. When you play 162 games, if you're good enough, you get in. If you're not, you don't. And you look at Arizona. You looked at that team at the beginning of the season. You thought they were just going to run away with it. And now they're just 2 games above 500.
Struggling scoring runs.
At 54 and 52. The Dodgers are at 500 and 1 game back. Kennedy with a base hit into right field. And at least you bring up Pujols with a runner on. It's a 2-out base hit.
You got a young pitcher right at the 101 pitch count. They have activity in their bullpen.
A bullpen that was very good in the first half of the season, but not so much here in the start of the second half. They had the best opponent's batting average, 3rd best ERA in their bullpen.
Based on what we've seen from the bullpen the first 2 games, I leave their young starter in.
Me too. What has Albert done tonight? He's 0 for 2 with an intentional walk. 2 outs, runner at first. Pujols put the Cardinals on top last night. He tied it up with a solo home run into center. You see what he's done with runners on and also bases empty, and then he doubled later in the game, stole third, and came around to score on a throwing error by Corky Miller. They'll go inside. Watch out here. The 1-0. Oh, what a cut by Pujols.
You never see him take a cut that vicious. Miller set up inside, but that pitch didn't get in there, and Albert liked what he saw. That's about as hard as we've ever seen him swing.
Everything just so compacted.
Yeah.
You're right. You just don't see that.
He's just so balanced, perfectly balanced, and then he falls across the plate swinging so hard.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Pujols. Off-speed pitch, check swing, did not go. So all the great hitters, Al, that you have seen, where would you put Pujols?
I mean, he's got to be right there, and his Hall of Fame statistics are just keeps on piling up. This is his 8th season, but just remarkable consistency.
Here's a 2-1 to Albert Pujols. 3-1. Ludwig on deck.
Active batting leaders, but you know, it's that 30+ home runs every year, 100 RBIs every year.
(3-1) pitch to Pujols. A strike. And Pujols is gaining now on Chipper Jones. Chipper Jones leads the league in hitting at .369, and Albert at the start of play at .355.
Chipper's on the disabled list for that hamstring. Just trying to shut him down because it wasn't healing.
3-2 the count on Albert Pujols, second in the league in hitting. By the way, Yadier Molina is also in the top 10.
Could be the last pitch we see from this young man, and he's been impressive.
The 3-2 to Albert. Chopped left side and foul.
Still throwing, you know, in the low 90s.
Albert at a .355 batting mark on the road, best in the National League. .615 slugging percentage, trails only Lance Berkman. Got him to reach, but foul.
He's homered in three of the last 4 games. He has 8 RBIs in this road trip.
And with a walk tonight, that's 69 on the year. 4th in that category, trailing only Dunn, Burrell, and David Wright.
Last night was the 7th time in his career with both a home run and a stolen base. And the Cards are 7-0 when he does that.
Count is full on Albert Pujols. Here comes a 3-2 pitch.
Jurgens is still out there pitching. Bobby Cox is kind of saying, can he get out this great hitter one more time? Tony La Russa saying, I got the man I want up there with this extended plate appearance. His next pitch will be 110.
(3-2) pitch, and Pujols hits it down the left field line. That's going to be a fair ball. It drops in there fair. They're going to wave in the runner. Relay to the plate. They hesitate, and the run scores. That's Kennedy.
Oh, Escobar had a legitimate shot and held the ball. And then he fires, and it still wasn't that far behind the slide.
Double clutch, put it in his back pocket. You're right, Al. They would have had a play at the plate. Instead, it's our Hardy's prime cut of the game. Pujols wins the battle.
fought it off. Norton hits the cutoff man, the young shortstop, and watch what he does with it. Starts to throw, and then he stops, and now he throws, and look at how far. I mean, Kennedy just really beat it by a hairline, and they would have had him with a good throw at the plate.
How about some of the misplays
they have
in the series by Atlanta?
I mean, just unlike a Braves team for the last close to 2 decades.
Big gap in left center for Ludwig. And very, very good at bat again by Pujols.
And really, I mean, because Albert being such an exceptional hitter, that was a pretty good pitch. And he just fought it off. It was running inside, used his hands, fought it off. The fact that it was a 3-2 pitch, 2 outs, Kennedy's running, was the difference.
Cardinals back on top, 3-2, 7 hits aside. No errors in this game. Could say there was a mental error by Escobar. He's got to come to the plate. And I think with a good throw, they would have had him.
Yes, but you had to run on it. You had to test it.
Now,
Jose Oquendo will tell you that I don't really care what kind of throwing arms the outfielders have. I am going to be aggressive. And being a good third base coach, part of that means you're going to get, on occasion, get guys thrown out at the plate.
ball scoots away. Pujols on his way to third base, in there. Another mistake made here by the Atlanta Braves.
Sometimes hard for us to judge whether that ball is the height on it, but is that a pass ball?
I would think it would have to be. Let's see.
Take a look at it. Oh, he just boxed it.
Yep.
Absolutely boxed it. And that's kind of indicative of the sloppy play we've seen from the Braves, and the Cardinals have taken advantage.
Cardinals lead it 3-2. 2-2 the count on Ludwig. The RBI for Pujols, number 65 to score Kennedy after Jurgens had gotten the first two. Little chopper hit to the first baseman Casey Kotchman in his Braves debut. 3-2 in favor of St. Louis. Time to stretch here at Dick. Sports Ultimate Nightly Highlight Show is here. It's the final score. Only national show that gives you nothing but wall-to-wall highlights. The final score tonight at 10:30 on FSN Midwest. Must be a frustrating couple of nights right now for Bobby Cox to see Teixeira get traded, McCann get hurt, Chipper Jones not in the lineup, and misplays in all 3 games of this series against the Cardinals.
Escobar just has to anticipate that there's going to be a play at the plate. He comes up like he's going to fire, and then he just puts the ball in his pocket, and then it turns around and changes his mind. And there's at least 3 or 4 strides that Kennedy had while he was indecisive.
And so Thompson, here he goes in the bottom of the 7th. See if the Cardinals can't squeeze one more inning out of Brad Thompson. The pitch was up, and Pujols, a nice play on the line from his backside to Thompson for the first out. It's plays like that that have separated these 2 teams in the series.
Now this is, and when you do it too. A leadoff extra base hit taken away by a great fielding play by Albert, and Brad right there showing his appreciation. That is a game breaker.
Now it's Norton, couple of singles. He is 2 for 3. The addition of Kotchman, he has moved out to left field this ball game tonight.
Norton really is more of a pinch hitter, but because of injuries, he's batting cleanup.
1-0 pitch. Swung on and missed. Ron Malone getting loose. So getting loose for Kelly Johnson.
Apparently. And hopefully that'll be the 8th inning. Third inning work for Thompson.
2-2.
Much better the second inning. So he's retired 5 in a row now.
First inning was not a sharp one at all for Thompson, but much better now. Little help from Albert Pujols too along the way. Both at the plate and play at first base. Two-two pitch to Norton. Mark Teixeira was talking in glowing terms about going to an Angels team that has a chance to compete for a world title. And for Casey Kotchman, probably a little bit frustrating to leave a team where you had pretty good production and then go to a Braves team that's not headed to postseason play. Isturis going out and makes the catch. Nice play. Sunday, August 3rd, the Build-A-Bear Workshop Day at Busch Stadium. For tickets, call 345-9500 or visit us online at stlcardinals.com. Omar Infante with 2 outs. He's 2 for 3. Couple of singles, RBI, and a run scored.
Had his 7-game hitting streak snapped last night.
Showing bunt, looks at a ball. Game started with Chris Carpenter. His return to the rotation here in 2008. 4 innings for Carp. 1 run on 5 hits. Struck out 2. Walked 2. Grounder over Gloss. Little chopper and a base hit.
Playing in a little bit, and that was the difference of that being a 5-3 to a base hit. So Troy Glass guarding the line and playing in, and the ball goes right over his head. Back at normal depth. He makes that play easily. Kelly Johnson's up now, but no Ron Vallone.
Out to visit Molina. Well, if you look at it, you can bring in Vallone. They have the switch hitting Gotay on their bench. They've got Salmons and Prado that also hit from the right side. They could counter. You've got Vallone up. Are you a little surprised not to see him here?
Well, he's coming in right now.
There we go. That's it for Thompson. He'll exit with 2 outs. And we'll tell you about the change when we come back. So it's not the lefty Ron Vallone. It is Russ Springer with 2 outs. And the Cardinals trying to hold on to this 1-run lead.
Now they would prefer to have Russ Springer face Kelly Johnson rather than, say, Vallone face a right-handed pinch hitter. I think Bobby Cox would rather keep his regular second baseman in this game for defense also. And Russ Springer, we've seen him frequently in these situations where, as you said earlier, one of the better options for a strikeout and usually to finish an inning.
Springer just 12 walks in 45 appearances this year. And that's hit out to center. Outfield very deep. That ends the 7th. 1 pitch yesterday, 1 pitch tonight for Russ Springer. 8th inning coming up. Tonight, this should be a lot of fun. A special pregame edition of Cardinals Live. We'll call it All Access. For the Phillies and the Cardinals during batting practice, Jason LaRue will be wearing a mic. Jim Hayes, Brent Stover will report from the field and the bleachers. Mike Shannon offers play-by-play as the Cardinals work on their swings. a unique installment of Cardinals Live, Friday at 6 on FSN Midwest.
And Boyer will come into this ball game and take over.
Saw him last night. This will be his 58th appearance.
And he will separate himself with the major league lead with this appearance. 58. Has a string of 8 scoreless outings dating back to July the 6th. It was snapped with 3 runs on Saturday and 1 inning of work.
Well, the game started with the Cy Young Award winner back in '05 and Mr. Jurgens, one of the top rookies in baseball this year. The 2 starters in this game.
Jurgens didn't disappoint. You know, he's on the losing side of a 3-2 score, but part of that was his defense.
Last time up for Troy Gloss. Great play in right field with the bases loaded by Francoeur.
Of course, he did get good defense on that play.
Yep. And certainly, I'm sure the Cardinals will talk about it afterwards. The pitching performance of Chris Carpenter. I'm sure they'll be very pleased.
As I said, Chris will be his biggest critic. Another winning attribute, but everyone else will say how pleased they were, and you know, a very positive step in the right direction.
1 ball, 1 strike on Troy Gloss. Let's talk with John Mozeliak, and he said the one name that is brought up more than anybody's name is Colby Rasmus when talking to teams about trades. How's Colby doing?
Especially when you talk to somebody connected with the Atlanta Braves, because from Alabama, you know, just very close here. They're all very familiar with him.
Here's a 3-1 pitch to Troy. On the outside corner, 3-2.
Colby probably another 3 weeks away from hopefully rejoining game action with a bad knee.
Yeah, and unfortunately that costs him the Olympics.
Yes.
Going to play for Team USA. Loss is 0 for 3 with a strikeout. The 3-2 pitch. Shallow right field. Francoeur. Well, the reputation on Gloss when he got to St. Louis, streaky hitter. That's exactly what he has been this year.
And he streaks follow streaks. You know, he was hot as a firecracker, and now he's cooled off as he's 0 for his last 13.
Chicago in the 5th inning leads Milwaukee. It's 2-1. Houston trailing 6-0 to Cincinnati. Florida trying to hold on against the Mets and gain a game against New York. It's 5-4. That's in the 8th. One ball, 1 strike on Yadier Molina. He's lined back to the pitcher. He is struck out and also grounded back to the pitcher. 7 innings for Jurgens, their starter tonight. There's a breaking ball in the dirt to Molina. 2 balls and 1 strike. The RBIs tonight for St. Louis. Adam Kennedy, an RBI double. Isturis, an RBI single to get the scoring started in the 5th. And a double by Albert Pujols last inning to score Adam Kennedy from first base. The 2-1 pitch. Up the middle, base hit for Yadier Molina.
Extends his hitting streak to 6 games.
You know, one of the things we were talking about, Al, a corresponding move with activating Carpenter might be to put Rick Ankiel on the disabled list, and the Cardinals are not going to do that.
Well, yeah, and that was one thing that Rick told us, that, you know, that it was kind of a big test last night, that he had been improving. He did pinch hit, walked, and then was replaced for a pinch runner.
He pinch hit to his surprise, too.
Well, but they kind of knew that was kind of a test, you know, because they knew they needed to make a roster move.
Here's Mather. First pitch is hit out of play and foul. Hope you enjoyed our feature on the broken bats in our pregame show, and it was Mather's bat in game 1 that proved to be a scary situation when his bat broke and caught the home plate umpire. Interesting to see what baseball will do with all these broken bats, and the maple bats in particular. 1-1 the count. They've got 3 lefties in the bullpen. That's Will Ullman. He's had a pretty good year.
Is that a showcase here?
We shall see.
A lot of clubs are talking about acquiring that lefty,
including St. Louis. Been talked about. 1-1 pitch. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Joe Mather. Cardinals with 1 lefty in their pen tonight. Randy Flores was sent to AAA Memphis. One and 2 the count on the Cardinal left fielder. Another start tonight for Mather. Foul back. Blaine Boyer, big man out there, 6'3", 215-pounder.
Another Georgia.
Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
3rd-round pick of 2000.
Boy, I mean, the Braves run has made a tremendous effect on prospects in Georgia.
Out to deep left field off the bat of Joe Mather. To the track, to the wall, and it's gone. A 2-run shot for Mather. Some insurance here in the 8th for St. Louis. 2nd home run in this series for Joe Mather.
Like the way he runs the bases right there, but he kept on getting some pretty good hacks at some 93-mile-an-hour fastballs. And finally he got one that he could turn on.
4th home run of the season for Mather.
And we'll take a look at this. Like you said, ball up, and Corky Miller's head just went down, as no doubt about it. 4th home run. He's got 9 RBIs now. Miles is going to pinch hit here, and Bobby Cox is going to make a pitching change.
Some insurance for the Cardinals. 3-run lead. It's 5-2 with 1 out here in the top of the 8th. That's it for Boyer. Joe Mather, 4th home run of the season. A 2-run shot, 5-2 St. Louis.
We're having some fun here as the Cardinals are trying to win 3 in a row behind Chris Carpenter. He makes his 08 debut, and by all accounts, we'll say successful. 4 innings, he only allowed 1 run, but his best inning of work was his final inning of work, where he struck out 2 and really was much sharper. But Chris Carpenter returning to the big leagues is a very positive sign for the Redbirds.
Here is Will Ullman, the lefty for Atlanta. Well, we saw it earlier this year with Ray Durham. He's playing with San Francisco and then just switched sides in the same series, joined Milwaukee.
Some talk that could happen with Ullman and the Cardinals. Reason why clubs are excited about this left-hander is this is his 56th appearance, his 4th in the major leagues. Left-handed batters are batting 160 against him. Righties 241. He did allow a 2nd home run of the year Friday to Ryan Howard. That was his first since April 27th, snapping a 38-game homerless streak.
Here's a chopper hit to the 3rd baseman for out number 2. He was selected by the Cubs in the 8th round back in 1998. He's had a couple of elbow surgeries. Acquired by the Atlanta Braves along with Infante for a right-handed pitcher in December of 07.
He had 1 bad game this year where he allowed a career high tying 5 runs in just 2/3 of an inning. All 5 of those runs after he retired the first 2 hitters. Without that game, his season ERA would be 1.85.
It's a check swing and now a strike on the Cardinals switch hitter Isturis.
There is the Cub factor, though.
Sometimes it works out.
It used to be, I think it was like no team could ever win if you've had 3 or more, or 3 former Cubs on your team. You couldn't win.
They're winning tonight. It's 2-1. That's in the 6th. McClellan up again. Boy, he has been used a lot by Tony La Russa.
He's going to be asked to get the 8th inning. And if the score stands, we'll see Izzy in the 9th.
Nothing at 2 the count. Wrap up the road trip tomorrow night on the air at 6. With the play-by-play, 5 o'clock, the pregame show. Two and 2. Two-two pitch to Isturis. Lined out to left and caught. Ullman gets the final 2 outs. Here in the top of the 8th, Joe Mather, tonight's left fielder. 4th home run of the season. A double and a home run tonight, 5-2. Cardinals baseball on FSN is brought to you by Budweiser, who thanks you for being a designated driver. By Chevrolet, see for yourself. Shop and compare at STLchevy.com. And by Sonic, it's not just good, it's Sonic good. He wasn't even supposed to make the club, but here he is. And man, is he used a lot. Kyle McClellan, the 23-year-old. Tuesday night, inning pitched, gave up a run. It was not earned. Walked one, no strikeouts. Maybe the best we have seen him all night was Saturday night at Shea Stadium. Allowed a leadoff base hit, then struck out the side. A pitch at 84 and a strike to Francoeur. Underway here in the bottom of the 8th.
Team leading 53rd appearance, and he has 25 holds.
Francoeur, base hit into right. A Springer in back-to-back games, 1 pitch, 1 out. I would think you'd be tempted to let him pitch the 8th.
Well, I would. You know, as you talk about McClellan being used an awful lot, back-to-back games for him, and what, 3 out of the last 4 games. You know you don't have Franklin tonight, and maybe you not have him tomorrow night because of how many pitches he threw in his 2 innings of work. So, you know, Springer, and you know, he's the old wily veteran that sometimes you're just amazed that he gets the job done as quickly as he does to finish an inning, but let him start the next one too.
Ruben Gotay, pinch hitter for Corky Miller, a switch hitter. But really, you know, that's been the track record with Springer all year. He's going to pitch that 1 inning or 1 batter or whatever the case is, but that's it.
But sometimes, you know, you
out of necessity.
Yeah, you know, to spell the other guys. And
saw Gotay pinch hit last night.
It wouldn't do him any harm to go out there and throw a few pitches.
On the bench for Bobby Cox, McCann is unavailable. Using Gotay here. You have Kotze from the left side. You'll have to bring in Sammons to be your catcher. They still have Prado, and that's Royce Ring, one of their 3 lefties, getting loose. Brian Terrio just hit a 2-run triple. The Cubs lead 4-1 in the 6th. Pass gloss out into left, and the tying run will come to the plate. And here come the Braves. It's 2 balls that weren't hit very hard. Loss was off the line, and Gotay reaches, tying run at the plate.
Just kind of reaching for it, puts it where he's not.
Here's Kotze. He's been swinging a hot bat. 20 for his past 56. No pinch hit. That's over his last 14 games. talk that he could be on the move. Mark Kotsay, 32-year-old.
Where's Valone now?
And a swing and a miss by Kotsay. Kotsay on the season with just 4 home runs. Good speed at the plate. Here's the 0-1. On the inside corner for strike 2. Like you said, Al, with Franklin, you don't know about tomorrow night. After this appearance by McClellan, you have to wonder if he's available tomorrow. Probably not.
Like I said, to be 3 out of 4 days, back-to-back days.
The 0-2. Curveball hit out of play.
Kotsay hits right-handers at .309 average. All 4 of his home runs are against right-handed pitching. .247, no home runs against left-handers.
Turner Field in Atlanta. Game 3 tonight. Cardinals trying to make it 3 wins in a row.
Blanco, a left-handed batter. So Valone got up when Kotsay was announced.
McClellan would love the double play or a strikeout. 1-2 the count. Going with that curveball an awful lot. We saw on Saturday night. His curveball was just tremendous. It was so sharp. Tonight, not as sharp.
So a lot of appearance, a lot of pitches.
1-2 pitch. In the air out to left center. Mather over. Makes the catch. All important first out. Double play or out of the inning. Boy, McClellan has just been so good for the Cardinals this year. Few bumps in the road, but not many. One of the top rookie relievers in all of baseball.
And you know, he's so mentally tough that you're just really impressed with what he's done and how much he has learned and matured this year.
You know, Springer has been worth his weight in gold when you think about what he's done on the mound, but also what he does out in that bullpen with guys like McClellan.
Yeah, but Kyle's one of those guys that you know you just don't worry about him, putting him in any situation.
Top of the lineup, Blanco is 0 for 3 with a walk. He walked against Chris Carpenter in the first. Carpenter with 4 innings tonight. .1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Blanco, a little slap hitter.
Cardinals will have the top of the lineup coming up in the top of the ninth. 2 runners on with 1 out. Two and 1.
Had a pretty good pitch there. Didn't get the call. Got a little slap hitter. He leads the ball club with 22 infield singles. That's 4th best in the National League. Had 4 hits last night, tying a career high, and he's hit .321 since June 25th.
That's hit back to McClellan. He'll go to second out there. No play at first. They'll throw behind and almost got him. Boy, heads up play by Izturis.
Yeah, knowing the running speed of Blanco, he had no chance as McClellan took his time, made sure he got the out at second base, and Izturis really went out there and thought he might get Francoeur surrounding the bag, and he had a shot at him.
And give Bloss a little credit too. It looked like with his left leg he was trying to block Francoeur from diving back into the bag. Let's see here.
Ball sails a little bit on Izturis, and then very quickly tries to go there, and then he tried to put that left leg there, try and make him go around it or stop him.
So 2 outs, 2 on. Yunel Escobar will be the hitter. Escobar tonight is sacrificed. He is single. He has walked and scored, and he's also flying out to right. Malone the other night in game 1 in that big lead for St. Louis. He got the first 2, And then after that, he couldn't get the final out. And eventually, Tony La Russa had to take him out of the game.
And after Escobar, you got Casey Kochman, left-handed hitter, in his Atlanta debut tonight. He's been picking on Albert. 0 for 4, and 3 times he's grounded to Albert.
I wonder if that's just a stall tactic for Tony, if he would like to go to his bullpen. Malone had motioned to Marty Mason, the bullpen coach, that he was ready.
Now this will be McClellan's last man.
First pitch, a strike. Escobar has gone 14 for 70 coming into play tonight. Had a shoulder strain. He missed some time. It's been very productive from this spot in the lineup. That will roll foul for strike 2. So what does McClellan want to do here? Blanco at first, Francoeur over at third. Long look by McClellan. Outside portion of the plate on these right-handed batters has been a wide zone. See if they want to go to it here.
Try to keep on shaking his head.
They do. Get out of play.
It's a cutter that just kind of spins up there.
Oh, baby, would it be nice to see McClellan keep this 5-2. Here's an 0-2. Inside, almost hit him. So he throws that pitch inside. You back the hitter off the plate. Let's see if he wants to go with that breaking ball on the outside portion of the plate. Keep him honest in there, right, Al?
Yeah. We'll see the curveball or a fastball away.
Hit out of play. That was over the middle of the plate.
Yeah, and that's that cutter that, you know, to me just has almost lateral movement. Doesn't do enough. Leaving it up in the zone, but couldn't center it.
Two and two.
Big gap out left center.
Huge gap out there. Inside again. Full count. Was 0-2, now 3-2.
Now Blanco's going to be running with his speed. Base hit. They might score 2.
Colorado winning again tonight over Pittsburgh 7-4. That's in the bottom of the ninth.
It's the final now.
Cubs 4-1 lead over Milwaukee in the 6th. Here's a 3-2. Bases loaded. Wouldn't this be something in his Braves debut? Kochman will hit with the bases loaded. Tony La Russa will go to his bullpen. Only lefty tonight is Valone. And Valone faces Kochman when we come back. Bottom of the 8th, and it's 5-2 St. Louis. Ron Valone is into the ball game for St. Louis. And Valone pitched Monday night. 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 1 run. It was earned. He walked 2 and struck out 2. The interesting point in this move by Tony La Russa, Casey Kochman, the 25-year-old that was just picked up for Atlanta, is hitting .349 with 3 homers against lefties.
And it's 6th in the American League. So he was batting .269 with 9 home runs against right-handed pitching, .349, 29 for 83 with 3 home runs against lefties.
Outfield is real deep right now. Go ahead run at the plate. Tying runs on. It's a 5-2 game here in the bottom of the 8th with 2 outs and the bases loaded. Kochman in his debut 0 for 4. 3 times he's grounded out to Pujols. Once he is flied out to right. First pitch to him. On the outside corner. Kochman didn't like it.
Like that slider.
Kochman is 6'3", 215 pounds. A couple of the grand slams in his career. 3 for 10 this year with the bases loaded.
Very good defensive first baseman. 25 years of age, like you say, so they control him for at least 3 years.
0-1 pitch from Ron Valone. This tourist will take it and step on the bag. Gets out of the jam. 5-2 St. Louis as we head to the 9th.
Pat Parrish, Rick Horton in the studio. U.S. Cellular Cardinals live after the game is over. We will break down Chris Carpenter's performance pitch by pitch. Also inside the clubhouse for Tony and the rest of the players' thoughts on this one. And we're going to update you on any potential deadline deals. That and more on U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live.
So we move to the 9th. Thank you, Brent. And it's 5-2 in favor of the Cardinals. 5-2 for St. Louis. Big hit in this game. Joe Mather. 2-run homer. Pujols with an RBI double to put the Cardinals on top. Royce Ring is into the game. His 41st appearance. 2-1 a record. ERA over 7, close to 8.
Left-handed batters batting .275 against him. Right-handers .421. Surrendered at least one earned run in each of his last 3 appearances.
New catcher is Sammons. First pitch taken low and away by Schumacher. To be Schumacher, Kennedy, and Pujols for the Cardinals. If anybody can reach, then Ludwig. Skip tonight with a double. He's fly to deep left a couple of times and walked. 2-0. We saw Mike Gonzalez last night. There's a look at Sammons, the new catcher. It was a tough inning for Gonzalez last night, too.
He gave up, what, 5 runs, but only 1 was earned.
2-0 pitch to Skip. 3-0. The Braves will have Norton, Infante, and Kelly Johnson coming up in the bottom of the 9th. 3-1. New York, the Yankees beat Baltimore 13-3. Tampa Bay earlier today over Toronto 3-2. Kansas City beat Oakland 4-3. Detroit and Cleveland 11-11 in the 8th. A leadoff walk for Schumacher. Looks like the Angels are going to hold on against Boston. They lead that game 8-2. Kennedy with an RBI double in the 5th. Singled and scored on the Pujols double in the 7th. He's also grounded back to the pitcher and grounded out to second. Pujols on deck. First pitch to Kennedy. Ball outside.
Kennedy swinging the bat well.
Sure is.
Hasn't been getting much playing time since the All-Star break.
Kennedy, Kochman gets up, gets the lead runner.
Kochman has made only 5 errors in the last 298 ball games.
If he doesn't get the lead runner, then you have a runner at second and first base open for Pujols, and Bobby Cox has been walking him all series long. Bobby Cox, long walk from his dugout to the mound. And that will be it for Royce Ring. Pitching change coming up to face Albert Pujols with a runner at first. And just 1 out in a 5-2 game here in the ninth. Julian Tavares is the new pitcher for Atlanta. Seen him in 1 appearance so far in the first 3 games. Tavares is 0-2 on the year, 6.08 ERA. In the game that we saw him pitched, he looked pretty sharp.
He's bounced around. He's been released by the Boston and Milwaukee before the Braves picked him up this year. Left-handed batters batting .458 against him, but right-handers under 200. He allowed 2 runs, 1 earned in his Braves debut on July the 8th against the Dodgers, and he has perfect 1, 2, 3 innings in 3 of his last 6 appearances.
Pujols is 2 for 7 against Tavares. Runner at first, 1 out. Cardinals leading 5-2. The Braves have actually out-hit the Cardinals 10-9, but trail 5-2 in this game. Pujols, first pitch to him. Throw to second. Stolen base for Kennedy.
Almost as if Tavares didn't even know there was a runner at first base. Paid little attention to it.
Very well could have been the case, Al.
Yep.
Knowing Julian like we do.
Right. Salmon's last year was very good, and now they're going to intentionally pass Albert. If he doesn't throw one over the middle of the plate.
Very well could happen now.
Second intentional pass tonight, and what, 3rd in the series?
That's why I thought it was a little surprising to see Kennedy run. Take the bat out of Pujols' hands, but you bring in an all-star in Ludwig that has walked tonight. He is singled and he is struck out. So second intentional pass of Pujols. He'll be on base for the 3rd time tonight.
I don't know about you, but in many ways I'd like to see this score stayed this way and see Izzy come in with a save opportunity.
I'd like to see some runs.
Well, you couldn't go wrong either way.
But the way that some of these games have gone, pile on with the offense.
Well, you're right about that.
But I know what you're saying. You do want to see Isringhausen. They've given the closer's role to him. Save situation right now.
And if you don't use him, and you have to figure Franklin's not available, Jimenez is sure to be coming in here in a non-save situation.
Last time that Isringhausen pitched was Sunday at New York. 2 runners on for Ludwig. First pitch to him. Up the middle, that's a base hit. Kennedy being waved in. This will make it 6-2 Cardinals. 73 RBIs this season for Ryan Ludwig. 6-2 Redbirds.
And another 10-hit game for the Cardinals. You do that, they win.
Ryan was ready for the first pitch, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, and ball down, just shoots it back up the middle. This is the team's 52nd game during which the Cardinals have collected 10 or more hits.
Gloss needs one of those hits. He's 0 for 4 tonight. There's the slider, misses low and away. He was robbed back in the 5th. What seemed to be a key play in this game at the time, which was the bases loaded long fly ball to right. Frank Core, a great play as he banged into the wall and saved 3 runs.
I amend that. The 51st time they have won, collecting 10 or more hits, and they have a combined 51-13 record in games in which the offense reaches double-digit hit parity.
First and second, 1 ball, 1 strike. 4-run lead for the Cardinals. What will Tony La Russa do in this 9th inning? The bottom half, as far as who will pitch. A pitch at 93 miles an hour, and it's 2-1. Now, at one point, Isringhausen was up and throwing, and our view is blocked, so I'm not sure if he is now or not.
If he does come in a non-save situation, it's because he hasn't pitched since Sunday.
Right. 2-1 pitch. And Gloss unloads down the left field line and foul into the Cardinal bullpen as he hooked it foul. Home run distance, but just out in front ever so slightly. 2-2. It's one of the things they've talked about with Tavares. His slider is not as sharp as it once was, and a lot of times he's hanging pitches.
Not a good combination.
2-2 the count. 2 runners on, 1 out here in the 9th. 6-2 Cardinals.
Julian's been with 10 different teams now, organizations. Malone with 11. And the record holder is Mike Morgan with 12.
Two pitch. That's pulled foul. Almost caught third base coach Jose Oquendo.
Need that helmet on his ankle.
Good friend of ours, Al, is Rich Jankowski of the St. Louis Blues. Works in their media relations department. He lost his father to cancer last week, and he's watching tonight. Wish him nothing but the best, and sorry for his loss. One of the real good people in town. Big Cardinal fan, too. 2-2, and I know his dad was as well. 2-2 to Gloss. 3-2. Runners at first and second. Here comes a 3-2 pitch. Up the middle. Tavares lost his glove. And Pujols is being waved in. The throw will come into third. Ludwig is going to be tagged out. A run will score. An RBI base hit. Julian Tavares.
Well, trying to feel that he didn't really throw it at it. He just tried to get up there. Ludwig tried to go. He looked back there, and that was the difference. Throw that nails him at third base.
We talked about it. I always got a kick out of Julian Tavares.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a guy that, you know, when you watch him on the opposing team, he kind of gets under your skin. Don't like some of his mannerisms, some of the things he does, but when you got him on your team, you find out he's a pretty good guy. A little eccentric.
Yeah.
I know his problem. His hat's too clean.
Saying that a dirty hat would help out Tavares,
especially with a little pine tar on it.
Line drive, base hit into right for Yadier Molina.
Moss thought about running and trying to advance to third, but with Frank Core, he stopped. See if Mather can't get a 3-hit night. A double and a home run, a 2-run shot. Was last time up in the 8th inning.
The other night he was a triple away from the cycle. Cardinals have busted this open with 2 runs here in the 9th inning. First pitch to Joe Mather. Hit a mile high. This will send us to the bottom of the 9th. Cardinals with 2 runs. 7-2. Our Budweiser player of the game, Budweiser, the great American lager. And let's take a look at it here. It'll be Chris Carpenter of the St. Louis Cardinals. Tonight, Carpenter, the start, first time since opening day of 2007. And for Chris Carpenter, 4 innings, 1 run, 5 hits, walked 2, struck out 2. His final inning of work, he looked really good. And that's our Budweiser player of the game.
And what a big shot in the arm. That he goes 4 innings. He looked good. Malone will try and finish this one off. A bit curious with being the lone left-hander in that bullpen, that you have him pitch 4 outs. They do have Franklin, who we believe is not available. Izzy, it's not a safe situation. Jimenez is down there.
So here we go in the bottom of the 9th. Cardinals trying to make it 3 wins in a row. 7-2 in favor of St. Louis. First pitch to Norton is taken outside. Cardinals with 2 runs in the 5th, 1 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th. Joe Mather, another big night. Pujols, a big night. And the Cardinals looking for win number 61 this evening on the outside corner. If you have Ron Vallone throwing in this inning, Al, you don't have another lefty in Flores because he's down in the minor leagues. Tomorrow night, you know, you may have added a lefty, but you would figure Vallone wouldn't be able to go very long in a game, or maybe just the one matchup lefty-lefty.
That's what you normally think, and you know, he'll be ready if he's called upon. But maybe also Tony's way of saying, I need to have a lefty.
The 1-2 pitch. Ooh, just missed on the inside corner. Joel Pinheiro gets the start for the Cardinals tomorrow night in Game 4 of this series. We're on the air at 5 o'clock. Mike Hampton, a lefty, will go for the Atlanta Braves. That's right, that Mike Hampton. He's still around. 2-2 pitch. High pop-up. Right field, Ludwig under it. First out. Skip Schumacher has left this game with a hamstring cramp.
Stavanoa is playing out in left field. Mather is in center.
Chicago Cubs in that all-important game in the 7th inning lead it at Milwaukee 5-1. The Cubs could go in there and sweep the Milwaukee Brewers in one of the biggest series in years for the Brewers at home. Omar Infante with 1 out. Strike at the knees.
Be curious to find out what that breakdown is between Cub fans and Brewer fans in attendance there.
Years past, they'd say it'd slightly be over 50% in favor of the Cub fans there.
Right. Cub fans would go up there and dominate the stands.
Apparently, they have had ticket requests. Those two will play each other at the end of the year. But they've had ticket requests from all over the country for that final series between Milwaukee and Chicago. 0-2 the count. 1 out, nobody on. The Cardinals have out-hit the Braves 12-10 in this game.
And by saying that, I would have to say those are the Cub fans all across the country that are,
you would think,
thinking that this is going to be a magical year.
Omar Infante, 3 base hits tonight. Vallone is ready. Here comes the 0-2 pitch. High fly ball out to left center. Joe Mather has moved from left to center. Out number 2.
And you hope that Schumacher is just a cramp rather than a hamstring injury.
Cardinals could be tied with Milwaukee before this night is through. Cardinals win, Milwaukee would lose. Wouldn't that be something after what we saw this time last week? 2 outs and nobody on. Swing and a miss by Kelly Johnson.
Cardinals would have 61 wins, 49 losses. Milwaukee would have 60 wins, 48 losses.
Out to center field. Mather going back near the track, near the wall, and it's off the top of the wall. Backing up, Stavanoa. Johnson will stop at second base.
The Braves really like the way Kelly Johnson plays. His second hit. He's also walked, been on third base. Mather got turned around on this one. It goes over his head, up against the wall, caroms away from him. A nice play by his left fielder, Stavanoa, to back up the play and get it back in.
So 2 outs, 7-2. Here's Jeff Rancourt. Play him to pull. First pitch to him, hit out of play. Rancourt, the fine play in right field. Ball hit by Gloss. Does have a base hit tonight. A couple of those. 2 singles, a walk. He's also grounded back to the pitcher. That's Kelly Johnson out at second base. With 2 outs here in the bottom of the 9th. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's hit out of play. Into the seats. What team will we see tomorrow night as far as the Cardinals have done at the trade deadline? What changes will they have made? Bullpen help, something that John Mozeliak has talked about. In particular from this side, the left side.
The impression they could make a deal if they want to, but may not be as big a deal or impact deal.
Hit to short is Turris across the diamond, and the Cardinals have won the first 3 in this series. St. Louis with win number 61. They're 61 and 49. 7-2 our final tonight. They'll go for a sweep tomorrow night here in Atlanta. U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live is coming up next.
Game's over with another Cardinal victory. Rick Horton and I standing by with U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live. Your thoughts on this one?
Well, Chris Carpenter coming back is the big story in this game, obviously, but also the Cardinals scoring late again, Pat. They pick up a lot of runs, 7 through 9. That's a nice little trend.
It certainly is. We'll have much more on that. Plus, Chris Carpenter, well, the Cy Young Award winner back on the mound will break down his first start in 485 days. Plus, we'll take you inside the Cardinal clubhouse there in Atlanta. Hear from Carp on tonight's start. Bring you Tony La Russa's post-game comments. And the trade deadline, less than 24 hours away. We'll give you the latest on what the Cardinals might be doing at the deadline. We haven't been this excited to welcome someone back since Mr. Cotter. Don't go anywhere. U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live coming up next.
Welcome to U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live.
It has been a long time coming, but Chris Carpenter, after 16 months, records his first strikeout. Comes in the 4th inning of an effective start for the Cardinals ace. Hello, everybody. Chris Carpenter back on the mound, and the future is looking very bright for the Cardinals. It is FSN Midwest Studio in St. Louis, and it's U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live, along with Rick Horton. I'm Pat Paris. Coming up, we're going to break down Chris Carpenter's first start in 485 days. We'll take you inside the Cardinal clubhouse there in Atlanta to hear from the ace. And don't forget, you can get involved in this post-game show as well because it's U.S. Cellular text time. 37289, the number if you've got a question for Rick or myself. Remember to include your first name, where you're texting from in that message. Standard text messaging rates, of course, do apply. Let's head back to Turner Field. Brent Stover standing by with Ron Vallone, who picks up a save. He's our Mid-America Chevrolet Dealers Player of the Game. Brent?
Pat, thanks. How does 3 in a row to start this series sound, Ron?
You know, I think we just need to take it today, take it easy, come in, be aggressive, and the guys were play good defense, hit the ball, timely hitting for us, and 3 in a row is great.
Great work by the bullpen. 5 innings, 1 run.
Hey, we need to have a little bit of some kind of settlement down there and start getting going, and I think tonight we did, but gotta be ready tomorrow.
Facing Kochman, bases loaded in a tight ball game. What's your mindset there going after him?
Oh, he's probably pretty excited. He's new team. And I don't want to get too excited out there. Try not to give him anything over the middle of the plate, and thinking ground ball all the way. And like I said, the guys play defense behind us.
Congrats on the win.
Thanks so much.
Ron Vallone joining us for the post game. Pat, back to you.
Rick, we'll talk all night about Chris Carpenter, and for good reason. Things did go well for him, but I think the bullpen there, we're starting to see it maybe settle a bit better into the positions where we expected these guys to be all season long. We still haven't seen Jason Isringhausen close one out yet, but maybe guys are getting slotted better.
And Ron Vallone was part of that better slotting today. I thought he looked really good coming out of the pen. He picks up the save today. And as for the offense, we talked about how important it is for the Cardinals to have a balanced offense. Again, tonight, everybody gets a hit except the pitcher spot. So Joe Mather probably the most important bat in that lineup tonight with 2 big hits. But there was still a lot of balance from top to bottom.
Well, and it becomes another one of those total team victories. View from the booth now. It's Dan McLaughlin and Al Rabosky back in Atlanta. They just called the game for you. Putting a wrap on this one, and you get a boost with Chris Carpenter, but you also get every facet of the game doing its job tonight, guys.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Thanks, Pat. And let's talk, Al, about the bullpen. Bullpen was very good once again tonight. You weren't going to go deep with Carpenter. That was obvious from the get-go. He was on a pitch count, 80-85. He didn't reach that pitch count. He gives you 4 innings, but then after that, it's Thompson and a few others, and the bullpen did a good job. Yeah,
I thought it was important that Carp could have gone deeper. You knew Brad Thompson would be the first one out of the chute, the long man. He goes out there and gives a couple innings. Struggled a little bit the first one, but, he buried it and got better as he went along. Russ Springer, the old veteran, throws 1 pitch for the 2nd night in a row and gets his only man and his only out. Kyle McClellan comes in and he does his good work. He needed Ron Vallone to bail him out for the final out, and then Ron Vallone gets the 9th inning and picks up a save. So it was a good work by the bullpen, and we still have plenty of arms rested for tomorrow.
Your thoughts on Chris Carpenter's start?
I liked it. I thought that you didn't want to put real high expectations on him. You knew he was such a competitor that he was going to go out there and keep you in the ball game. And I thought the most important thing was his final inning of work. He was the sharpest, and he really looked, Chris Carpenter-like.
All right.
I think he's just going to build off of it.
Let's hope so. Later in the show, we'll take a look at Joel Pinheiro as the Cardinals look for a sweep tomorrow night. He'll get that start. Pat, back to you.
Yeah, looking forward to the sweep and looking forward to you guys talking about it later on in the show. Let's go to the highlights. Bottom first, Chris Carpenter's 08 debut, and Gregor Blanco draws a leadoff walk there. Still on the first 2 outs. Blanco on third. Greg Norton flies out after issuing the first walk of the game. Carpenter retires the side on 15 pitches. Bottom second, Carp struggling again. Jeff Runcourt singles to left. Omar Infante comes home. 1-0 Braves take their first lead of the series. Bottom of the third, bases loaded, 2 outs. Francoeur with the soft comebacker. Carpenter tosses over to first for the 3rd out, and Carpenter escapes the jam. Braves up 1-0. Bottom 4, Carpenter really finds his groove. Corky Miller strikes out swinging. And then next batter, it's Jurgens, and he strikes out as well. So back-to-backers. Then Blanco, 1-2-3 inning for Carpenter. Top of the 5th, 1 out, Joe Mather. At third, and Cesar Izturis singles to center. Mather scores, tying the game at 1. Izturis an RBI in each of the games so far in the series. 2 batters later, Adam Kennedy pokes a double just inside the left foul line. Izturis scores. Cards take the lead at 2-1. Still in the 5th, back to 2 outs, and Troy Gloss sends this one deep to right. But check out Jeff Francoeur making this spectacular catch, crashing into the wall. Gloss strands the bases loaded, 0 for 12 at that point in his last 12 at-bats. Bottom half of the 5th, the Brad Thompson in, Infante singles to left. Yunel Escobar comes home, ties it at 2. Top of the 7, 2 outs, Kennedy at first. Robert Pujols rips a double to left. Kennedy comes all the way around to score. Redbirds take the lead at 3-2. Pujols his 4th consecutive game with an RBI. Then the Cards add some insurance in the 8th inning, and there it is. Joe Mather crushing a 2-run homer to left field. Mather's second dinger of the series, 4th of the season. 5-2 Cards at that point. They add a couple of more as well in the 9th inning, and they go on to win. 7-2 is your final. They take the first 3 of this 4-game series. They have a chance to go for the sweep. It would be their first 4-game sweep in Atlanta since September 1963. You remember that?
A little before my time.
Yeah, just a little before my time as well. And so the Cardinals, things are really clicking for them. 52-13 now are the Cardinals when they have 10 or more hits, which they got 12 tonight, Rick. They are now 31-24 on the road, which I think speaks volumes for this team. That's by far the best road record in the National League. This team seems to, for whatever reason, really click when they're away from home.
And that's awesome that they've been able to do that this year on the road. One of the things I liked about this game today, not only Chris Carpenter coming back, but the Cardinals are just pushing on the road after losing 2 out of 3 in New York. And we're going to use that word again, resilient. But, you know, this Braves club, really tough to watch the Braves deteriorate into who we see them throwing out there in their lineup. It's just a different lineup. But Chris Carpenter, we still have to give him some credit. Even though he didn't start well today, I don't think he was sharp. He got better as he went along.
When it was almost identical to his last rehab start at AAA Memphis, we're going to pick it up here. Bottom of the second, really couldn't quite find it, and almost turned into a big inning for the Braves.
Well, 3 straight hits to start the inning, and Chris Carpenter, one thing about Chris Carpenter is, you know, we're going to focus a lot on what his stuff looks like, but there's a base hit, now there's a bunt that stays fair, and Gloss lets it ride and it hits the bag, and so that's a little bit of bad luck there. But Chris Carpenter, despite giving up 3 hits to start this inning, that's Francoeur with the back-to-back hits. Carpenter is a competitor. Al Roboski talked a lot about it in the broadcast. You know, this is not your normal guy where we're going to worry about his arm slot and his pitch velocity. You know, he's just a pitcher. He just knows how to do the job, knows how to get out of the jam. So the second inning kind of started bad, but it ended okay. He ended up getting through it with just 1 run. Could have been a lot worse, Pat, but 1 run, you know what? You can deal with that. Exactly. And the bottom line is, by the time he got to the 4th inning, he got a little bit nastier. There's a cutter down and away, another slider at the edge of the plate. Fastball jams the 3rd hitter of the inning. So, you know, Carpenter did not make a bad pitch in that 4th inning. He was throwing pitches 2 different spots, and that's the Carpenter that we know.
His line tonight brought to you by Lincoln Mercury, and it's the 4 innings, and almost as much as any kind of a pinch count. He just went 67 pitches, only 36 strikes, but more than the pitch count probably is that he was coming up when they had a chance to do some damage, and so they lifted him for a pinch hitter at that point.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't at his pitch count, but he was close to it. So I think it made sense for them to do what they did with Chris Carpenter. I think the next great question is going to be how many pitches do you go with Chris Carpenter next time out? You know, and my guess is it'll probably be 85 or 90, and the hopes would be that would be more innings than just the 4 innings we saw out of him. Maybe he can go 6 with that number of pitches. But, you know, I think what he did today, you know, you can't expect a lot more.
We're going to continue to talk about Chris Carpenter, obviously, and we'll take you back to Atlanta and hear from the Cardinal ace. Rick's going to break down tonight's performance of Carp as he stands up a little later on the show. Keep it right here on FSN Midwest.